Welcome back to the podcast, folks. In a sec, we'll start episode 43 with David Snelling and Kurtis Murphy, but first, a massive thanks to this week's sponsors. We are sponsored by Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on the expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are ideal for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. And if you head to their website and use the code TeapotOne10, you'll get 10% off. That's TeapotOne, TeapotOne, then the number 10, TeapotOne10 for 10% off. We are also sponsored by Transfor Limited Digital Solutions. Transfor Digital Consultancy are a web design and development consultancy with a passion for creating bespoke digital solutions for everyday challenges. From building websites to building branded solutions, Transfor Digital Consultancy can help your online presence and help ease cash flow with payment options available too. Contact ask@transfor.solutions. That's ask@trans4, Trans, the number 4.solutions. For more information or visit trans4.solutions. Trans, the number 4.solutions. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, drop me a line at info@TeapotOne.com. Okay, folks, on with episode 43. Now, Dave and Kurt are the chaps behind Biking for Barnados. You may have heard of them, you might not. Back in 2008, at the age of 22 and having only just passed their bike tests with no previous experience, they set off and followed the long way round adventure journey as they rode around the world. It's part of the inspiration that made me want to do my trip. They're a great couple of lads. I've been trying to get them on the podcast for ages, so enjoy this one.
Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes. Houston, we can hear. No problems. We're sorted. I think we finally cracked it. We've got all three of us going. Excellent. Good stuff.
Yeah. So
right, lads.
12 years to have a chat. Nice.
Yeah, I know. Not bad, eh? Not bad.
Exciting.
Are you lads all right just cracking straight on with it? Because, I mean, people may as well know the backstory and everything that's gone on. We may as well sort of go through it all in the podcast.
Yeah. I've never done anything like this before, so we'll take your lead.
I'm winging it as well. Don't worry about it. It is really laid back. It is. Yeah. I am armed and dangerous and ready to go. So feel free if you want to have some beers. It is. Yeah. It's a chap called David, False Neutral on Instagram, I think it is. He lives over in Czech, and he sent me some beers because he said he was fed up watching me drink like weak Scottish beer, I think he called it.
Yeah.
So he sent me some Czech stuff.
Yeah.
So lads, shall we crack on? There we go.
Yeah, good man.
There we go. Beautiful. As you said, it's only been, 10 years, 12 years?
Absolutely, yeah. No.
We finally managed to have a chat.
We did it.
Slangs.
Cheers.
Right, folks, welcome to episode, I think this is 43 of Brew Time. And this week I have David Snelling and Kurtis Murphy.
Hello.
How you doing, boys?
Good. Good to be here.
Yeah, pretty good.
It is awesome to have you on here. Folks, if you are not aware of these two lads, honestly, these two chaps are partly responsible for, I'm 2 minutes into the podcast and I'll mention it, into my trip, because these lads, back in 2008, wasn't it?
8, yeah.
Yeah, 2008, after seeing the whole long way round thing, I mean, there's a bit of a backstory to it, which we'll cover, but these two lads set off on their Suzukis and they did the long way round trip themselves, without the backup crew, without the film crew, without the support crew, and they did it. And I followed that. I watched it, some of the vids that you posted up, and I even bought your DVD when you did your DVD, and I loved it. There you go.
got it. He's still got
There
it.
it is there.
Oh, he's got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody has a copy of that.
No, it's like you and like my mum, and that's it.
It's like rocking horse shit, that thing, isn't it? Loads of people have said, honestly, you guys have got a bit of a cult following, believe it or not. You genuinely do, because there's people have gone to me, where did you get their DVD? And I was like, I can't remember, but I got it.
You don't find that in Waterstones or WH Smith.
Yeah, no, it's
Brilliant. So, God, what do we say, lads? Right, how I normally start these is I introduce the people, and then I say, right, over to you, couple of minutes, do your little pitch. What's your name? What have you done? Where have you come from?
Oh God, right.
So, over to you two boys, first of all, and then we'll crack on.
You start, you go.
Me start. Okay. Yeah. My name's Kurtis. I'm a Sagittarius.
He likes long rides around the world.
I do, yeah, a little casual ride. So I think the story behind our trip, really, it's in a funny kind of way. It's almost a bit of a love story to me between me and Dave, in a platonic love story, and it's a boyhood friendship basically that blossomed more so than we could ever imagine, I think. And we got to
I'm getting all teary.
Personally, yeah. For me personally, I was about 20 years of age, and I did a bit of traveling. Well, I went to China actually, and that opened my eyes. And at the time, I think the long way round was on, and I thought, hey, you know what? Let's have a go at this. And then I realised we had to wait a year because we weren't old enough to ride a motorbike yet. It's 21 in the UK. So I thought, right, well, as soon as we turn 21, then we're going to do it. And then the slight one was Dave was in the RAF, so he had to give some notice. So I forced him out of his career to come on this mad trip with me. And that was it, really. It was just like, look, let's go for it. No support crew, no backup, nothing about bikes. Didn't have a license. We're 20 years of age at the time when we started planning it. And then, by the age of 22, we set off on this global trip, trying to find ourselves, I suppose, coming of age and just, become a man. More so for me than Dave. Dave was already a man by that point.
Yeah, but he was RAF, you know what I mean?
Not a proper soldier, is it?
Oriental regiment, actually.
Saying nothing. I am saying nothing. I've worked with loads of military, obviously, in the old bill, and every single one of them, whenever anyone mentions that they were RAF regiment, you can imagine the pelters that come from the bootnecks and all this shit. I just stand there quietly.
How long have you been out of the police now then, Bruce?
A year. Almost, a year next month. Yeah, that'll be me out.
Wow.
What a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I'm loving it, but what a time to go self-employed a month before lockdown.
Should have hung on a month.
Yeah, in a business that's based around motorcycle tours and travelling. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah. That's been all right.
Living the dream, though. What an incredible dream.
Well, at the moment, definitely. There's ups and the downs, but I love each and every day that I'm working. So you can't argue with that, can you?
Yeah.
But anyway, this isn't about me, Dave. Come on then.
Okay.
Kurt's had his bit. Well, over to you.
So I mean, I've known Kurt. We've been best friends since we were 4 years old. So we met at a primary school. And he was even, like, we did a mock wedding when we were in year 2, and I ended up playing the groom, and Kurt was my best man, and then he was the best man at my actual wedding. So that's, just gives you an idea of, the friendship.
Can I just interject there slightly? Can I just say that Dave moved away from Morecambe, our hometown, a few years ago, and recently I followed him. And I live about 3 doors away from his house. I could be at his house in about 30 seconds if I run.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about that.
Yeah, be afraid. Be very afraid.
I finally thought I'd shook him off, but he keeps crawling back. But so we, obviously, we're very close. we did lots of little mini adventures when we were kids. We lived by the sea, so we'd always be on the beach. We'd always be like climbing through all the rocks and stuff, all the tidal walls. We'd climb through them. We'd make little bases in there because we were like really skinny little kids. We'd sort of managed to weave our way through things, and we'd swim out in the storms to boats that are bobbing about in the sea. Just stupid things, all kinds of stuff. But so we always had that sense of adventure, and then obviously I sort of got a bit fidgety at school and was like, I'm not carrying on with this. I'm going, and I wanted a bit of experience, wanted to experience life a bit more. I never saw the military as like a full, this is my career, this was what I want to do forever. I always saw it as an experience, like a life experience, something that not many people get to do, and that you see things that not many people get to see, and it was an incredible experience, and I went on two tours of Iraq during the Iraq War, and that was pretty intense, but it was sort of like, I remember I came home on Christmas, and my brother's actually 6 years older than me, and he was a big biker, like really into his bikes, and he bought the Long Way Round when it had just come out on DVD.
Yeah.
Like, got it for Christmas. He was so excited, and we sat down and we watched it together. And he said to me then, could we do something like this? And I was just like, no, you could never do something like this. And he was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And that was it. And then about 12 months later, Kurt rings me up and he's like, I've been watching this Long Way Round. He's like, we should do it. We should do it. And I was just like, no, there's no way. There's no way we could do something like that. Think of all that backup. Think of everything he's got. And he was just like, yeah, but let's do it. Let's give it a try. And I was just, and it's sort of like, I was like, okay, this would be fun. This would be a pretty incredible thing to do. And I don't think at any point I ever saw it as achievable, even before we set off. I even felt like, I'm not doing this to complete it. I'm doing it for the adventure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. I was doing it to complete it.
Yes.
You had the clock on, didn't you? Right, come on.
Yeah. No, we've got to do that. But if we'd got somewhere and something had happened, we had to come home, that would have been fine, because that was the adventure to me. Was that whatever happened in that trip, it was the adventure. And I always said it on the trip with Kurt, when things went wrong and things went bad, is and you're pulled over by the police in Ukraine and things like that it's all part of it. It's all part of the trip. That's what makes the trip.
Absolutely.
So all those things that happen are actually the things that you look back on, and not the smooth roads and the easy ride and the nice day that you had riding from one place to the other. It's all the challenges that you faced on the journey and the people that you met and things. And so, it was, it sort of helped, I think, for me to compartmentalize actually getting around the world. Was like, okay, well, we'll just get there and then we'll see how we go.
Just do it in stages.
It's funny, actually, because Dave's approach, I think, was quite different to mine. And maybe it's where we almost complement each other. I think I was very obsessed with the finer details. I'm intense all the time. I'm always thinking, right, the next place, and what's going to happen in a month's time when we enter Russia, and is all the documentation in order? And Dave was just like living for the day. Yeah. And I think, and he's a lot easier to get on with, probably. But I think it worked because Dave helped me lighten up and see what I was doing every day. And like, wow, look where we are now. And even when disasters happened, you come off your bike and you rip all your fairing off, or I would like, oh no, it's a disaster. And Dave would go, hey, it's all part of it. And I'd be like, no, we've now got to fix this. And I think between us somehow, I had everything in order enough to get us through. And Dave actually made the whole thing fucking enjoyable.
It's the yin and the yang, isn't it? It's the approach you have to take to it. Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, and you look at some of the things that we did, and I can't believe that we actually completed it, and especially going away from it and living your life and then coming back to it. Yeah, you're just like, how on earth did we were 23, we were kids. how did that happen? Do you know what I mean? How did we actually do that? And it just goes to show that you can do it. You can just get on a bike. Our tents were £5 each.
Yeah.
Those tents. You know, we didn't have a sat nav. Like, we didn't have...
Jesus, did you not? You just went by maps?
No.
We didn't even go with maps. Maps would have been a luxury.
Yeah. We couldn't take the maps. They were too big. So we took photocopies of maps, right? And I had them in my top thing. And we had... Then we took photocopies of the photocopies, right? Which didn't show the roads. So one person had maps... right, that were just highlights on a piece of paper, and it's like, right, I think we're here on this map, right? We didn't have. I used a compass. I had a compass, and we had a map, and as long as it was heading east, right, we must be on one of these roads here.
Yeah.
So, but as well, we got to Russia, and all our road maps were in English, and all the signs were in Russian. So we get there, and the only way we knew where we were was to count how many letters were in the sign. So it's like,
was it?
Right, there's 10 letters in that name of that town. Right, find out which town we're in, and counting how many letters there are. Like, how on earth did we get anywhere?
Russia's fairly straightforward, isn't it? Because there literally is one tarmac road that runs east to west. So just have the sun in front of you in the morning, and you know you're going east.
That's it. Yeah, the sun, and then behind you as you're getting in, and then we set the tent up before it gets dark. Yeah,
mental. I love the fact that you two, not only were you like young, naive, eager, but you'd never ridden before, and you two are those people that pass the tests in order to... I love hearing the stories about that, like people passing the tests and off they go. So it was what, a year before you set off, you did your bike license?
We passed the test, and then, I mean, even now, I still get emails or somebody speaking to me, and they'll contact me and go, oh, so what shock absorbers did you use on the bike, and what discs? And I go, I've no idea. Whatever it came with. We literally walked into the showroom, bought 2 bikes, and set off. We had no off-road tyres. No off-road tyres. We went through Russia and the desert in road tyres. It was hell, and we had no idea how to fix them.
I just watched a little bit of that before, because we'd not even decided what we were going to do, and we were already on the trip. And we decided that we weren't going to have off-road tyres by the time we got to Germany. And we decided that instead of buying off-road tyres, because I just watched it, I was like, what an idiot. And we decided to get this gloop stuff, to fill our tyres with, so that if we did get punctures,
you'd be all right.
We'd be all right. Yeah, we got like 200 punctures each. They did absolutely nothing.
Gloop will sort it out. It'll be fine. Gloop will steal the tyre.
Yeah, nobody needs off-road tyres, do they? Well,
I actually think there's 2 parts with that. I think, firstly, we had no money. Everything was on a budget. Like Dave said, it was a £5 tent. We had awful gear. The panniers didn't really fit on the bike. They were hanging off. We had to ratchet strap them on because all the screws
just
come
fell off.
It was just like we just had all the bits and ends. And I think when we got to Germany, I think originally we may have thought we'd buy some off-road tyres. And there was 2 points. One, I think we thought, we can save a few quid here, not spending 100 quid on tyres. And then the second point was, I don't know how to change a tyre. So even if I got a tyre, what do I do with it?
And we didn't have room. We didn't have room for them on the bike.
It made me laugh. I remember watching a DVD recently at the start when you left Morecambe, and the pair of you are like loaded up to the gunnels. And I was exactly the same. When I set off, I arrived late as well, because you were late, weren't you, Dave?
Yeah.
I arrived late, was totally overloaded with kit to the extent I could hardly keep the bike upright, and then I had this big massive escort with me, and within 5 minutes I ran out of fuel. I had to get fuel at Elephant and Castle in London with like 40 bikes in a convoy. But you do though, don't you? You literally just take everything that you think you're going to need, and you'll swear blind that you've stripped that kit down to the minimal amount, but it's still ridiculous amounts of kit, isn't it?
And I think for us, we definitely learned on the job. And we were just talking about this, I gave Dave a call. We were just talking about it before we came on here with you. And we just got chatting about different parts of the trip, trying to remember what we did. And I said, we said I said, do you remember leaving Morecambe and being so wobbly? It felt like there was just the front tyre just had no traction at all. Yeah. And because I was so heavy at the back. And I remember leaving and being wobbly. And then I look at the video of us coming into Morecambe, and I'm stood on the pegs, riding one-handed, and somewhere during that trip, I learned how to ride a motorbike.
That's it.
And I think it was probably after Mongolia.
That's right. You did Kazakhstan, then Mongolia, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then up into Jeez, how was that? I'm really envious because that Mongolia was a place that since seeing Long Way Round, Mongolia is where I want to take. I want to take the jigsaw through that, and I couldn't get in.
There's nowhere in the world that I've ever been to where it's literally you could just turn off the road at any point. There's no fences. There's nothing. You could turn, and it was just like we were riding through. And we just said, so that hill, that mountain over there, should we go and camp on the top of that? Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you just go off the road and boom, straight up the side. Nobody owned, there's no land. It's all, owned. It's not owned. It's all like sheep herders and stuff like that. There's no fences. It's just an absolute wilderness. And
it is like, for me, it felt almost surreal, and it sounds so cheesy and a bit of a cliche to say, but it was like storybook stuff. And you're riding along, and we were told there's something like 7 times as many wild horses as there is people. So you're riding along on the bike, and you'll have like a herd of horses run past you, and an eagle in the sky, and then like some bison crossing in front of you.
You don't get places like that anymore. And the amazing thing was as well, because we came down from Russia, and you go to a petrol station in Russia, and then you feel like you're about to be, there's like the glass, there's the shields, there's everything's blocking. And you go over and you have to pay for your fuel first. So you have to know how much you need for your tank, or you're going to spend, and then you go over and you fill up, and just like you never see anyone. It's like just everyone's scared all the time. and then literally, you go from there, and then 2 minutes ride through the border of Mongolia, and there's a guy there, and there's like a little petrol station, goats around, and he's there with a bum bag full of money, and he's just walking on like, how much, and do you know what I mean? And they're just suddenly not worried at, lovely people who are not afraid of anything or anyone, they're just nice, and I just suddenly felt relaxed, like.
I did.
See, I had a total opposite experience in Russia. Like I entered Russia thinking I was expecting it to be quite standoffish and a little bit hard, physically hard going, but with the people, I didn't expect any warmth or friendship. And honestly, Russia was one of the friendliest places I went through.
Right.
I don't know if maybe it was because it was just me. And maybe because of the bike I was doing it on, it drew a lot of attention maybe as well. But I mean, I literally had to work hard to be alone because they wanted to be with you all the time. They want to accompany you from one town to the next town, hand you over to the next bike gang, and then they take you to the next one. So I find that you had to work quite hard to go enjoy the hospitality when you're staying with them. But then it's like, I need to do this by myself, thanks.
I mean, when we were told, like when we went to Vladivostok to find the Iron Tigers, and that, I don't know if they met the Iron Tigers.
I didn't know
what they were. I mean, they were something else, weren't they? That was what an experience that was. They were just, I mean, Kurt, do you want to? So
I don't know how we came across this biker group called the Iron Tigers.
I think somebody mentioned them on the way, that they were actually. We met a biker coming the other way, I think, or something, who said, right, if you get to Vladivostok, you need to find the Iron Tigers because you need to find the right people who are going to look after you. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble.
They were so. I will say, Russia for us was very. It was up and down. Some places were really hospitable, really nice, welcomed you in, maybe stayed, and especially in the Siberia section. And then other parts, we were just terrified all the time of being robbed, it's a fight. We got obviously the normal bribes and things with police, and then we had another time where we got into a bit of a fight in a bar. There's things that happened.
That was stupid.
Yeah. And then we got to Vladivostok. We got to Vladivostok. And,
hang on.
We're going back to the fight. Yeah,
let's rewind back to the pub fight. What happened here?
Dave happened.
Right. No, I was doing the right thing. Okay.
Happened.
Right. We were outside this bar. We've been with these like Russian guys, and we were with these two German bikers, proper top blokes, Sven and what was his name? Bjorn. Sven and Bjorn, absolute top blokes. And it was like we were riding with our German twins. It was surreal. So we went to Lake Baikal with them. And we awesome. Rode around the island and Lake Baikal.
Yeah.
And that's a really good, if you wanted some good off-roading, if you haven't got off-road tyres like us, don't go there. But if you've got off-road tyres and a decent bike, it's just literally, it's an off-roading dream. It's a whole massive island, like huge, but there's just no roads. So you're just like riding around everywhere. Anyway, so we've been there with them and we got back and we went out and we're in this bar and we met these, and there was like one that literally looked like a Putin, didn't he? It was the spitting image of Putin.
I'm pretty sure it was Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. And there was quite a few of them. And anyway, we're outside and one of the Germans, Bjorn, is showing some photos that he's taken to one of these Russians. And I was stood behind him. And this other Russian guy, quite big, came over, leant over, grabbed the camera and just pulled it off him and just started running. So I just reacted and chased after him, pushed him into a car, grabbed him, got him in a headlock, and then pulled the camera off him. And
I reacted at this point by running into a nearby taxi.
You're the martial arts guru, aren't you? You're the boxer.
Yeah, but let Dave fend for himself.
Yeah, cheers, mate. So anyway, I've got this guy in a headlock, and I'm just there. Suddenly it's just dawned on me what I've just done. It just happened automatically. I didn't really think about it, but then I realised I've got this guy in a headlock, and I've got all his mates stood in front of me.
Oops.
Right, so like 4 or 5 Russian blokes. It's the middle of the night. I'm in Siberia. People go missing for less than this. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like holding this gun. I'm like, right, I've got to keep this out. I can't look afraid now because they'll just get me straight away if I look scared. So I thought, I've got this beard. I'm menacing. So I grabbed hold of I've got the camera, so I grabbed hold of him and I threw him at his mates and shouted at him God. And anyway, and then just stormed off. Oh my God.
It was just a big bluff. I'm going to stomp off.
It was just a massive bluff. And we got in this taxi. It wasn't a taxi, was it? It was just some random guy, but they don't have taxis, do they? So
you just got in someone's car.
But before Uber, it was just random people driving around. And we got in, and then they followed us, didn't they? They got in another car, and they followed us.
Yeah, we were ready for a big standoff, yeah.
And we got to the hotel, and I was like, right, okay, just let me deal with this. I've got this. So we got out.
We jumped out like crazy. Well, like you, mad Scotsman.
They jumped out and was like, what do you want? What do you want for me? To their car. And then they drove off. So I was like, I think we've avoided it, but we need to get out of here tomorrow.
Yeah. Because they came back with another 5 cars.
Yeah.
So wow. That was just sort of it's one of those things you think, that was the most stupidest thing. It's a camera. Jesus, let it go. Do you know?
It's not even your camera. It's the Germans' camera.
I couldn't have had a more opposite experience. Just honestly, it was just Russia. For me, Russia was just party town. It was just awesome. I would go back tomorrow. Wow. I just had such a giggle. It's such a great time. Yeah, and Vladivostok for me it's just party time. I mean, it's like the Wild West, right enough. Yeah. But I think because I was by myself, and then I just booked into a little hostel. So I was there with a load of other sort of backpackers and that sort of stuff. And
hostels are like the best place to just turn up and have instant friends. Everybody's in the same boat, just doing the same thing. It's brilliant.
They're all schizophrenic and
absolutely.
We had that guy in New York who just woke up in the middle of the night screaming every night.
Wow.
It's just like, what?
Jesus.
Somebody's about to get us all, and it's just this random guy who has bloody screaming fits every time he goes to sleep.
I just seem to find all the hostels with the alcoholics and the people with severe substance abuse problems. That's the ones I find.
You know what that is, Bruce? You are the alcoholic in that room.
I was the alcoholic. Yeah, definitely. Mega.
But we found Vladivostok, going back to that the Iron Tigers were really hospitable. So there's this biker group. We thought, let's seek them out. And so we rode up to this compound. We just thought, what are we doing? You know, we thought, we've just made it. All we have to do is cross the water in America. We're going to make it. We're going to do this trip. But before we did it, let's go and seek out this crazy biker gang and see if we can get ourselves killed before we go over. And anyway, we found them. And they were well connected throughout that city. You know, everybody knew them. And there was like this leader who I could only describe as looks like Captain Jack Sparrow. It was like uncanny how much he looked like him. And so anyway, they befriended us, we stayed with them, they took us out. Couldn't really communicate much because they all spoke Russian, annoyingly. But I remember
across the country, don't speak Russian. Do anything. It's ridiculous.
The only one who was probably a little bit standoffish, I would say, was the leader, Captain Jack Sparrow. He just kept us a little bit at arm's length and let his minions deal with us. Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you a little story. He had, I think obviously he knew he looked like Jack Sparrow, and he had a mug with Captain Jack Sparrow on it. And he loved this mug. Drinking tea out of it all the time, you know, walking around with it, keeps pointing at it and pointing to himself. And
what did you do to the mug, David? What did you do to the mug?
Well, normally this would be a David thing. On the last day of the morning we were leaving, I'm brushing my teeth and knocked the mug off the side. It's in bits. So I screwed it all. I didn't tell Dave. Screwed it all up, packed it up, put it in my pannier. I said, right, let's go. He's like, oh, we've got ages, we don't need to leave yet. The boat's not leaving for another few hours. I said, no, let's get there early. Let's make sure. Anyway, got on the boat, threw the mug over the side, and I'm pretty sure it's been 10 years, and I'm hoping that I'm safe now and he doesn't come to England for me.
I am actually friends with the Iron Tigers on Instagram.
I know. So. I was going to say, and tonight, Kurt.
I did not know. I did not know that. Thanks, Dave.
I can't believe you didn't tell him. He probably thinks you nicked it.
Yeah, but I couldn't bring myself to say that I broke it. Yeah.
Jesus. So when I was bloody hell. When I was crossing Russia, I snapped my frame a couple of times, and I think it was oh Jesus, was it first? I think it was it was the third time, but the first time in Russia I snapped the frame. I had to stay with a random family. There's a whole story behind this, but I ended up staying with a family in God, what's the place in the middle called? Is it not Novosibirsk? Novosibirsk. A place called Novosibirsk. Do you remember? Yeah. We had to stay. Yeah, beautiful, amazing, cultured city, isn't it? I mean, it's science and ballet and right bang in the middle of Russia.
Yeah, we're getting there like, look at that building, it's right, that one's right, let's go.
Well, you know, I ended up living with this family for like 5 or 6, total random family that I'll not get into the story here, but anyway, I stayed with them for a while, got the bike fixed and hit the road again, and when I was filling up with fuel, I pulled out the petrol station and a big Goldwing pulled up alongside me with this geezer on the front with a baseball cap and denim waistcoat and a big sort of Ukrainian flag on the side of his cap. Yeah. And he had his missus on the back.
Goldwing out there, don't they?
Oh yeah,
they
massively,
Goldwing.
Yep. Yeah. So he pulled up alongside me, said something in Russian, and I was like, Skosha, English, and he was like, oh, where you going? So this is as we're riding along on the road. So I told him. He said, oh, where'd you sleep? So pointed at my tent and pointed at the field at the side, and he was like, I'm going to a bikers festival. You must come with me. So I was like, okay, why not? Yeah, all right, then let's do it. So he said, follow me. So I'm thinking it's down the road. It's like 3 hours later. We've met up with a couple of other bikes. We've stopped at an offie somewhere to get a load of beer. And we're now off of this main road heading, like I never went north in Russia. I was always just going east. Well, we're now heading north into these, into the woods and the mountain type places. And we turned off and went down this little track up into a forest. And as we're going into the forest, about 100 like denim-clad Hell's Angel type bikers came running down the track at me, and I thought,
you're gone.
Yeah, you start hearing banjos, don't you? And you're thinking, I'm going to be screaming like a pig here. But anyway, they met me, slapped me on the back, just thrust a bottle of vodka into my hand, and they were like, mad Scotsman! He's phoned ahead on his intercom and said, coming. Turns out, believe it or not, they were Spetsnaz, the Russian special forces. Novosibirsk has one of the biggest Spetsnaz biker gangs, and that was like their yearly bike festival. So I ended up in the woods getting hammered with all these Spetsnaz guys that had come straight from Chechnya. 3 o'clock in the morning, one of them's like crying his eyes out in the corner, and another one's just got this mental stare with no teeth, and it was like, wow.
No way, crazy. That's crazy. I think that's one thing about these trips where, what it left me with really is I've got that much confidence to go anywhere in the world now. It doesn't matter because you realise that there's good and bad everywhere. I could go around bad parts of Morecambe and get beat up and mugged. Yeah. And but also there's a lot of nice places. And there was a moment it hit me, and we were sat round a campfire somewhere, I can't remember where, somewhere in Siberia. And there was us, the English, the Germans, and some Russians, and maybe even a French guy was there at the time. And I was like, 50 years ago, this would never have happened. You've got the French, the Russians, the Germans, the English, all sat around the campfire, all laughing, sharing food, telling stories off the road. And I was just like, this is what life's about. This is, this is real living now. It's meeting people in different countries, cultures, sharing food, stories. And I don't think you experience that without the travel, and especially when you're a vulnerable traveller like you were, Bruce, on the bike, people are willing to reach out and help you more. Because I remember thinking there is no chance if a Russian was driving through England. This is the old me. If a Russian was driving through England, I'd go, come and live with me. I'd be like, no chance. He'll come in the night, he'll stab me, he'll steal everything out of the house. And I have a totally different viewpoint on it now that people will help each other. I think ultimately, despite what all the media and all the nonsense says, people are good overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the main things for me on the trip as well, was that at some of our worst possible moments that we had in the trip, some of our really lowest, where we were most depressed, it was the people that helped us. And they didn't realise what they're doing. But there was one point we were in Ukraine, and we were getting pulled over by the police all the time. Like, they'd see us coming a mile off, and they'd see it, and they'd get us down, they'd take our passports off us, and they'd write a figure, $70 on a piece of paper, and say, give me that, or you don't get your passport, basically, or I'll take you in. And so you're just like, and we've got no money. Do you know what I mean? We do not have enough money. We're not millionaires riding around. We had literally, that was food for us that we couldn't have. So, we were hiding behind lorries, right? We were through a lot of Ukraine. We hid behind lorries to try and avoid the police checkpoints because they were pulling us over, every single one.
They're pulling guns out on us and just putting guns to our heads and taking money,
Because we tried driving past them, like, pretend to ignore them, like, just go. And then they chased us down and pulled us over and then pulled a gun out, like, get off your bike.
Yeah.
Like, flipping out, easy. Jesus.
I had exactly the same in Mauritania, West Africa. That's exactly what I had, Thankfully, the only place I had it,
And, so this was, like, a really low point. And then we pulled over at the side of the road to camp. And it was full of mosquitoes, absolutely full of them. And you were
about that big.
Yeah, I was in my tent writing my diary, and there was blood dripping off my hand onto the diary, and it's still got the marks on it from when it. And it was just like, this is horrendous. It's been miserable. We've been hiding. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just worried about being on a road. In case we get pulled over. And now I'm covered in bites, and do you know what I mean? We were so low. And anyway, next day we're riding into Kiev, and we got into Kiev, and there was like this fancy hotel, and we pulled up, And then this random guy just pulls up next to us in a van, and just gets out and just goes, "No, you not stay here. You stay with me." Right? Honestly, and we're like, "Are you kidding me? A guy in a van has just pulled over and just says, "Come and stay with me." He's barely introduced himself.
Yeah. He had like a van full of steel drums in the back, and he had like a bandage wrapped around his hand with like all blood soaked on it. Like, "Stay with me."
Called Ivan as well.
Ivan.
Where do I sign?
Ivan the Terrible. And so, do you know what? But then he gets children out of the van to show us that he's all right. Look, he says, "Look, I'm all, these are my kids. I've got kids.
Here's one I caught earlier."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A kiddie catcher and lollipops.
You've got children in your van. You must be okay.
Yeah, and then right at the back, there's some puppies.
Yeah, lollipops, ice cream. But what? We thought, fuck it, let's go, let's do it, let's give it a call. Why not? There's two of us. We're all right. We're pretty handy. But anyway, we pulled up at this guy. He's actually still in the process of building his house at the time in the outskirts of Ukraine, of Kiev. But he was the loveliest guy you've ever met. Yeah. He looked after us, and his friend, who was 7 foot tall, the scariest man you've ever met, was looking after us and took us on tours, and he was just such a lovely bloke. And they just looked after for a couple of days. We stayed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was such a, and you just feel like, I know we've had such a miserable experience. We were fed up with Ukraine. We were just like, get us out of here. This is a horrible, horrible country.
Yeah.
And then suddenly people arrive and they look after you. And this guy he'd been to the UK as an immigrant, and he'd worked in the fields and stuff like that. But the people that who were paying him and looking after him really looked after him, and so he was desperate to repay people to come from the UK that he could return that favour and welcome them in and then look after them. And so that was, for him, it was nice because he was sort of being able to repay the favour to somebody from...
I will say he didn't repay us the money that the police took off us, though. So,
It's crazy, isn't it? Because you see that sort of stuff in, like when you watch The Long Way Round and any of the other sort of big adventure-type documentaries that have been out there. You see these total random strangers, and part of it, before you've done something like this, you think, well, that's bollocks, that would never happen. They've plainly plainly paid them off for that to happen. But it as you said, it happens everywhere, doesn't it? It's interesting sorry, go on, Kurt.
I was just going to say, just on that point, I think we left thinking nothing will happen. It will just be like, okay, it'll be a bit hard work, miserable weather, but we'd probably just like float our way around and it'd be okay. Well, I kind of did. And then when you
what will I do to make it really exciting?
Yeah, exactly. How is this going to be exciting? And before you know it, you're meeting people, there's breakdowns, you're having runs in with the mafia, the police are robbing you, you ran out of water in the desert. It just goes on and on and on. And I don't think it's possible to go around without anything happening like that.
No, I don't think so. Not if you're getting involved with. If you're putting yourself out there, do you know what I mean? I think if you just put your head down, you didn't take anyone on round about you whatsoever, you could probably just get on your bike and ride, providing nothing happened, providing you never broke down and nothing drastic like that.
Yeah, but so again, it's impossible then.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like everyone you speak to has the same opinion that, as you said earlier, Kurt. I think for me, the media really hack me off. They fuck me off the way they twist everything, and it's bullshit. I mean, Dave, your time in the military, I'm sure you've been involved with stuff that you've then seen reported in the news and gone, that's not what happened. That's not how. And I know in the old Bill, like I would deal with stuff, go home or go like even back to the neck and watch it on the news, and you'd be like, I just come from that. That is not what happened. And it's horrible to see how they twist depending on what the political persuasion is at that time. It's horrible.
I remember having a moment where we were leaving just after I'd broke the mug and we'd escaped on the ship. We were heading to South Korea. and we were on the Dongchun ferry, I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, that's the end. That rounds off Siberia. That it's gone. Russia. Will I ever go back? I don't know. I remember having a little moment of clarity and kind of thinking, a bit like we were saying there, although we had some negative experiences in Russia, it was far outweighed by the generosity of strangers. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, I remember looking at the sea and sort of seeing the land fade into the distance and thinking to myself, all the time in the West, we're told about Russia and the communism and be careful and people are going to
the enemy,
kidnappings and the enemy and all that stuff, all the Cold War and everything, negative connotations towards them. I remember thinking my experience wasn't that. And I remember thinking we're told to believe by the media that they're all indoctrinated. And actually, I think it's us that's indoctrinated into that way of thinking, not them.
Yeah. I agree with you. I do agree with you, definitely. You tend to find there's a lot more, certainly the people I've met, there's a lot more Russians that have been over here, like into the West, and they've travelled around Europe or travelled even around the States and places, than people you'll meet in the UK who've been over and travelled in Russia. You know, unless you go outside. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the adventure circles, then okay, yeah, you're bound to meet a lot of people that have been over and travelled through Russia. But Joe Blogs in the pub, there's probably not many there that have ever been. Whereas you go into any pub in Russia and you're pretty much guaranteed there'll be people there that, like you said, have been over in the UK and worked on the farms, worked in bars and hotels, and they've travelled, they've done a bit. Yeah, definitely. Gents, we can bang gums for forever here, but how about we crack on and go through some of these questions and see where it takes us. Lovely. Yeah. Beautiful. Right, first off, folks, we will go to Patreon, so it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one is Mark Fulcher. I hope me ducks. So a question to you all that has caused several arguments in my house for the last few weeks. How do you serve toast? I ask this as my beloved wife has now decided that all toast must be served via a toast rack. It's a bit posh up here, apparently. When I questioned the logic behind this, it was made quite clear that by letting the toast have a cooling period, this meant that when buttered, it was layered more evenly and that the butter sits on the toast and tastes better. Wow. So it makes me wonder how you all prefer your toast served.
That is.
I have a very strong opinion on this.
Go on then, Kurtis. Let's hear you.
I used to work in a hotel and used to serve in toast racks. And the butter, by the time you put it in the toast rack and taking it from the kitchen to the table, the toast was always cold and it was unbutterable. Yeah. So for me, absolutely not. And that's from experience.
Do you want a top?
Go on. No, go on.
I was just going to say my top tip for, and I am a culinary expert, as Kurtis will tell you. What I do is because I hate cold toast, so I don't like cold toast. So I put the toast in, and then about halfway through, I'll put the plate on top of it upside down.
Ooh.
So the heat, it doesn't take long, it only needs about 30 seconds of heat onto that plate, and it will keep it warm for the whole time once you put it. Because as soon as you put that toast onto the plate, the plate will sap the heat from the toast almost instantly. So if you've got a warmer plate, so just 30 seconds, that last 30 seconds.
So we could essentially have a toast rack, but with a warm plate. Yeah. I think we might have solved it.
I think we've cracked it. I think we have cracked it right there. David Snelling, do you know what? I think that's a eureka moment. There are people all around the world now listening to this.
Podcast and channel devoted to the toast.
Toast.
Travel toast, we'll call it.
So, Fulch. Fulch, there you go. That's the answer. Good luck persuading your wife that is the way she needs to do it, but you heard it here first. Next one, Rory Tinsley. Right, first question. Did you share a tent and were there unspoken nights of spooning to keep warm?
Brilliant.
We were close to, actually. We did a trial run to Scotland, your territory.
No, to Rome. We did the
Did we do it in Oh, we went to Rome. Yeah, we bought two little.
It's close to Scotland, Curtis.
Yeah,
it's close.
Well, I thought it's the same place, isn't it?
We did 2 trips, didn't we? We did one to Scotland with Sandy as well. This guy who was going to come with us on the trip completely bailed after the trip to Scotland.
Yeah, he did.
I can't do this with these 2 idiots.
And we did one to Rome, and we shared a tent to Rome. I mean, what happens in Rome stays in Rome. But we shared a tent, and after that trip, we went, we can't do this. It's too intense. We need our own tents.
I think especially, like, for me, like, in the military and doing Iraq and things like that, and sharing tents, it was just like, I am having my own tent. There's absolutely no way I'm sharing a tent. Do you know what I mean? And it, honestly, to have your own little space in the evening, I think probably kept us from killing each other.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
have a bit of space where you can, not that we're actually see each other all day because we've got helmets on and just riding along. And we didn't have intercom, did we? I don't think we had intercom, did we?
No, I think we took it. It didn't work.
It didn't work. Yeah, it was 2008.
We took a sat phone and that didn't work. So
nothing. It was 2008. Nothing worked.
That's right enough, isn't it?
There was no YouTube or Facebook was like early days, so there was no like. We could put pictures on, but you couldn't put videos. Videos had to be like 3 minutes long on YouTube. So we never put anything on. There's no like vloggers or anything in them days.
You could have started it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Well, why do that? We would have wrecked your career, wouldn't we?
You could have been YouTube millionaires living in Lambos and mansions by now.
We're hoping that's you, Bruce, and we've got some kind of attachments here.
Oh Jesus, mate! Crikey, I wish the amount of people that seem to think that you're full time on YouTube, you must be minted. You're like, can't actually afford the fuel anymore for the bike, but never mind. Still living a dream. Rory's got a second question. On such a long trip with a friend, were there any falling outs? Did you just want to beat each other to death with one of your torn off limbs? Fallouts, you must have had them.
Still do. Still do. There's one particular time. There's one particular time that sticks in my mind, and to be honest, I hate to admit it, but I was in the wrong. So I
don't think we've talked about this since.
Yeah,
this is on video. This is on video, Dave. It's on video. All right.
I honestly don't think we've talked about it. I'll send it to you. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Well, now you've admitted that. Now I've admitted I'm wrong. You're looking forward to talking about it. So there's a part in Kazakhstan where there was a bit of an off-road track. Now, it looked like a really picturesque place to camp. And Dave was saying, let's go down there near this river and a mountain. Now, Dave picked up the off-roading quicker than I did. And I'm thinking, I don't like the looks of going down this ravine and into this territory. And I said, I don't know, it looks a bit risky. They're like, no, it's all part of it. It's fine. We'll do it. He goes down, shoots off. He's down there setting up his tent. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to go down. Set off, naturally, come off the bike skids down. I think wing mirror snaps off, maybe lose half a foot peg or something, loads of damage on the fairing. So it's the end of the day. I'm hacked off anyway. Kick my bike. I fly off. Anyway, check I'm okay. Immediately stand up. Have a big go at Dave. This is your fault. Look what you've done. Anyway, we had a big slagging match in the middle of nowhere in Kazakhstan. Just sheep looking onwards at us, thinking, what are they doing? Yeah. And then, did I apologise, Dave, or not the next day or anything?
I think you did, because it was such a nice. It was like quite a nice place. Yeah. And there was that big rock cliffs, wasn't there, next to the river? Yeah. It was a nice place to camp.
So yeah, we did have a few fallouts, but what I will say is, I think when shit really hit the fan, I know there was times where I had low moments, and there was a time where Dave got really ill in Siberia, probably at the worst part of the journey. We both looked after each other. Yeah. Dave kind of gave me a pick up. When Dave was really ill, I'd pack up all his gear for him and put it on, help him onto his bike. And I think that's the measure of a friendship, really. When times are going tough.
I think one I was thinking of that I wasn't thinking of that one.
I'll just sit back here with a notepad.
Yeah. We'll be having an argument at the end of this podcast, I think.
I think we were on that road to Khabarovsk towards in Russia, and we were just miserable. We knew it was going to be really hard, because this is the part where you and Charlie got on a train. So we thought, right, we can't.
It's a Zilov Gap.
Yeah, we're going to have to go. And so it was like Cheetah to Tinder and round to Cabros. And it was horrific. The roads were horrific. I mean, the bikes are falling apart because just suspension's knackered, everything's knackered. We were getting punches left, right, and centre. It was literally like every town that had a tyre repair place literally scattered the road with nails so that they get people in there. So every time we went through one of these towns, we'd literally rip our tyres apart. And anyway, there was one point, and we're just really low. And I think Kurt was really struggling at that point. I think you were having a low day. And so, and I was we're both feeling really low, down. We're exhausted. We're not eating properly. We're just, like your body's just shaken to bits. But I was sort of trying to get this bike sorted. And you're just taking a minute to compose yourself and just have a bit of alone space, and I totally get that. But at the moment, I was just needed, because this bike, we needed to get the tire fixed and things like that. And I was just absolutely fuming that I was doing this on my own. And we got back on the bikes afterwards, and we rode. I mean,
it was your bike, sort your own bike out, mate.
And we rode for about a couple of miles, and I was just absolutely stewing in my helmet, just thinking. And that's a problem when you're on a motorbike. You've got your helmet on. You're just alone in your own thoughts. Yeah. And you can almost have arguments with a person on the other bike. Mm-hmm. And they've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, a luxury you don't have, actually. You didn't have, Bruce. But I know exactly what you're talking about now. I remember looking at Dave. Now, I was riding behind Dave. I remember my iPod had broken. So I've got hours and hours a day just for my own thoughts. And I thought, what can I do? So I can sing to myself for a bit and think of things. I remember looking at Dave in front of me, and this is exactly what I see, right? This is what he's doing. Bopping away to his music. And I thought, he's doing this on purpose. He's utter bastard. He's trying to wind me up. But when you're in that environment, your mind starts going crazy. And I remember, I talk about it in my book. We had nothing. We were just eating rice and beans every night. And we had some boiled sweets. And we shared them up. We had about 6 or 7 each. And I remember being so protective of these boiled sweets. And I wouldn't eat one. And I'd speak to Dave and go, have you had a boiled sweet yet? And he went, yeah, I've had 2. And I'd be thinking, yes, I've got 2 more than he's got. Thinking I'm winning.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
But on that trip, and I was carried on, and then I was just like, I'm going to have to do it, so I'm going to have to address it. So I pulled over, and then you pulled over behind me, what's that? And I went mental, just really angry, I think. Just really frustrated and angry. And I think we both literally broke down in that moment, just because we were exhausted. We were just drained, and we're just so stressed out because we couldn't see an end to it. You couldn't see an end to it. These roads were going on forever, and they weren't roads. They were just cobbled tracks. Not even that. It was just dust and rocks. It was horrific. There was no tarmac. And we just literally broke down. And I remember and then we literally hugged. We're hugging at the side of the road, and then this truck comes past. And I thought, that must be such a weird sight. This guy in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Russia.
I think the annoying part about that was we'd probably not seen anybody for 5 days, and then the one time a car comes past, me and you are embracing.
It's interesting that. For people listening, that stretch that the boys are talking about there was known as, it still is called the Zilov Gap, but nowadays it's actually tarmac. There's a road, right? Yeah.
That is amazing.
It is, but it's the hard part of that stretch now is trying to find somewhere to camp because effectively it was a 700-mile stretch of swamp. Basically, all it used to be is just swamp. So there was no road across it, and the Russians used it as like a military defence, didn't they? Because the only way to cross it would be for invading armies to use tanks to cross that, and they'd be lucky to cross it in tanks in places. So they never bothered building a road.
Yeah.
However, after you boys did it, Putin wanted to get back in power, and he basically said to the Russian people, if you elect me back in, I will build the road, I'll finish the road that connects the country, will unite the country.
Yeah.
So he got in, and they built this road. So when I got there, there's a road, but it's just swampland. Either side of it is just swamp. So
it's fascinating learning about the history 10 years later.
12 years later.
So I ended up just like sleeping in. They have these lay-bys. Well, I don't know. Well, they wouldn't have had it when you were there because there was no road. But they now have like lay-bys, like little car parks at the side that have. Really, it's just a concrete wall backing onto the woods where you can go and have a dump round the back of the wall. It's horrendous. Then they have like a vehicle ramp and inspection pit there because Russians do all their own mechanics. You know, they do all their own spannering. So I just pitched my tent round the back of this ramp and just slept on the tarmac, you know, at night. But there's bloody bears and everything out that. You know, you're in deepest, darkest sort of Siberia, aren't you? By then,
honestly, take my hat off to you.
Yeah, I do. I think he did this on his own.
Yeah,
but then. You know, as you boys say there's times when you are so knackered that, I mean, I wouldn't, if it wasn't for the mosquitoes, I just wouldn't have bothered with the tent. I'd have just slept next to my bike, but they just eat you alive, don't they? God, they're horrible.
We were
those
that
mozzies.
sodden at one point. When we were there, it was just grey the whole time. It was freezing. You just hit potholes. It comes up under your helmet. If you had jumped in a swimming pool, you couldn't have been any wetter. I remember just getting into the tent, thinking, why we even put this up? We're soaking. But it was just a bit of shelter from the wind. Yeah. And you lie there in a sleeping bag. Everything's soaking anyway. And then because our tents had holes in them, the water would rise up in the tent. And by the time you wake up, you can see a little pool in you.
You see the river going underneath the tent. Yeah.
And we just kind of made a bit of a decision that the sooner we get out of here, the better. So as soon as it's light, we ride, and as soon as it starts to go dark, we camp, and we just keep ploughing through.
Just keep going. It is a war of attrition, isn't it? Traveling across Russia, because it's so vast.
Yeah, but with for us, like to experience it without the roads, I think is makes it more the experience, and that's one of the things why we wanted to do the trip as well, was because we knew that a lot of these countries were on. They were developing countries. They were building roads. They were, the experience was going to change. Like now, like how 12 years later, it would be a completely different experience. I think it'll
probably be different again to what you did, Bruce. I think it'll be miles different again.
There was still
KFC at the side of the road or something now.
Well, that bit that you were talking about with the Zilov Gap, there's no petrol. There's stretches of 400 or 500 miles where there's no fuel. But as I was going through it, they were just starting to build some petrol stations, but they weren't there yet. But they were like,
we had extra jerry cans with fuel in, and that again that just weighed down your panniers and your suspension.
No, there were still stretches, though, I remember, where you're on that main road, that sort of east to west main road, and without warning, that road just turns into dirt track, and you've got like 20 to 40k of just dirt track. But that's their M1. That is the road. And you're saying it was raining when you were there. When I did it, it was over 40 degrees. It was bang in the summer.
So totally different experience.
It was horrific. We were there in summer as well.
Were you?
Yeah.
God,
it would have been August, I think.
Yeah,
we were there.
Same as me.
Right, we literally felt like we set off from, we got to the Eastern Europe, and I think we followed the same storm east. Like a storm passes over you. We just followed it all the way, and we literally were just drenched the whole time, weren't we?
I had the polar opposite. Like, by the time I got to Norway, I crossed into Norway and the temperature started going up, and it basically stayed at 30 odd degrees pretty much constantly, all the way from like Nordkap all the way down to sort of Romania, then up through Ukraine and into Russia, and sort of from Moscow all the way to Vladivostok. It was in the 40s. It was just baking hot. Scorching hot.
I think we had a point in... Go on, Dave.
I was just going to say, I'd rather it be cold and wet.
Would
Well,
you?
not wet, but I'd rather it be cold because I'm like a bit of a caveman that way. Like, I don't like the heat. I much prefer to be in a cold, a cold and keep warm than get hot and then not be able to get cool. So I would probably prefer our conditions to yours, to be honest. 40 degrees is too hot.
I was the same as you, but I swear, because probably because I'm a fat lad and I did it in leathers, I think because I was in that sort of temperature for 3/4 of the trip, that I think I probably raised my core temperature because I like the heat now, and I never used to like it.
Yeah,
So,
I think whatever you do when you're on that trip, I think when I don't know about you, Bruce, but you're away for so long and living outside that I remember having a period where you set off and it just feels like you're going on holiday. Like, it's a big trip and off you go and everything's exciting. And you get past maybe somewhere around 3 weeks and it just starts to shift a bit where you go, I'm like kind of ready for home now. and then you keep going and and you're always thinking, I was always thinking of the end game, like, New York, when we get to New York. And then at some point, probably around somewhere between the 6 to 8 weeks mark, I started to live a bit more like Dave, just day to day, and just thinking, this is my life. Instead of being at home, getting up every morning, brushing my teeth, going to work, driving home, making tea, my day now is I get up, I roll my tent up, I pack the bike, I ride, I stop off at the next point, and that was just my life. It stopped being a trip. It started to become a lifestyle. Yeah, and that was when I probably say I really enjoyed it.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that, yeah.
Do you know that is one of the things that's the problem with soldiers in the Middle East and things like that? Because like when I was out there and you're away for 4-6 months, you get like that. So your life is what you are doing. So your life is going on patrol. Your life is, could I die today? Do you know what I mean? And that's what, when it becomes the normality, that's when it starts messing with your head. Do you know what I mean? That's why soldiers are coming back from things and they've messed up because that became normal to them. And at the time, their bodies, they get into it and you just think, okay, this is the new norm. And this is me, and you cope with it. And the soldiers cope while they're out there, but then when they come out of it, it's struggling to get back to that. Yeah. That's what I noticed with that. But exactly.
That takes us on. How did you find when you got back from the trip then? Did you get the post-trip blues?
Go on, Kurt.
For me, when I came back, I was the most relaxed, chilled out guy I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I came back and I remember we decided we was going to go on a night out. We'd grown these beards and, we're dead scruffy, had long hair and all that kind of thing. And I said, right, when we get back, we're going to go on a night out with all the lads and have one of those big nights out. I remember getting home and having the choice of all my wardrobe and still putting on the same crappy pair of jeans and a T-shirt. And I didn't care. It didn't matter anymore. And that's how I lived my life. I came back, I was in debt. I had no job, and I was just thinking, and what am I going to do? But it didn't matter because I just felt like I was above all that life pressure of, my tax is due, my insurance, or I'm going to get to work, or money. It didn't matter because I'd somehow felt self-sufficient and I'll handle anything. And then I remember just being dead relaxed, and even my friends were saying, "You're so chilled out." I was like, "Yeah." Like some hippie, like, "Yeah, man, I've experienced the other side." And then probably about 5 weeks later, 6 weeks, I was driving the car through Morrison's car park and somebody pulled out on me and I beat my horn. I remember going, no, relax, you're zen. And somewhere along the lines, it left me and I slipped back into like this real world, or rather the non-real world. The real world was what I was doing. And
the old world,
I find myself back in the rat race. I'm back in the rat race and I'm back into this. And I look back on it and I have to try and remind myself at times, remember that feeling and what it was about.
It's always putting things into perspective, isn't it? It's trying to, and you can get so tunneled into your own life and the world and your job and your whole life that you forget, everything else, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Forget about and that's what a trip like that does, is it opens you up to like, this is this is real living, is experiences, because you only get one life. You need to experience, you've got to have these experiences, because you're never going to do it again, and you're never going to get that chance. So
yeah, definitely. I remember I struggled massively for probably a good year or so after I came back. It's a bit weird, because I developed a heart condition while I was away that I didn't know about while I was away. I developed an arrhythmia, an erratic heartbeat, but I didn't know about that till I got back and went back into my old job, and I had to do my fitness test for my firearms license in the old bill, and I couldn't pass the beep test. And it's only like level 8. It's nothing. Right. It was nothing bad, You're like, I can walk that. Well, not quite walk, but you're literally jogging it. And I thought, well, I've sat on my arse for a year and a half. My own fault. I'll just do some training. And the more training I did, the worse I got. And it was like I was struggling to get to level. I think I got level 2, but level 3, I was just like, I feel like I've got an elephant sat on my chest.
Right.
So I'm now thinking things aren't good here. So I end up having to go to the doctor, and thankfully they fitted the old heart monitor and found the arrhythmia. So I had to go on these beta blocker things, to stop you having blood clots. They thin your blood and they slow you right down. But it was right at that time that I just started to feel really down, and just didn't feel like I fitted back in this world anymore. I wanted to be back out on the road. As you were saying, Kurt, it's like you come from that environment where just everything is zen, isn't it? Everything just seems to work out, and everything's great. You just do what you're doing. You've got no worries. So all of a sudden you're sort of being shoehorned back into this. You've got rent to pay, mortgage to pay, bills. You've got to get a job. And I really struggled for about a year, and then just sort of, I don't know, I think you just click back in, don't you?
Yeah. It's I think what it left me with was I did have a bit more of a sense of adventure. And actually I started planning another trip with someone else. They've got with his wife, and I wasn't as interested.
They spoil everything, don't they?
Yeah. So, and then I was looking at cycling from the UK down to South Africa, and I got so far into the planning, and the lad who I was going to do it with, he bailed on me, and then I just didn't fancy it on my own. I just wanted somebody to share the experience with, I think. But so in the end, I ended up traveling on my own. But the typical backpacky thing, and going around all different places in Asia and a bit of the Middle East and North Africa, and so it left me with definitely a thirst to do more. And I think I took can't remember, maybe another 4 months or 5 months or something off work, and went and did some independent travel. And I still have a little bit of that in me now. I don't think it'll ever go. I think there'll always be times where I think I need to reconnect with that world again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do something.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm very fortunate. My wife, she sort of stood by me when I was gallivanting around the world on my trip, and then she's very aware that I have that sort of, pardon the term, but I have that sort of Jippo gene. I need, every now and then, I just need to hit the road, even if it's only for a week, 2 weeks. I just need to get on a bike and I need to go somewhere. And she's good as gold about that. So every now and then, I just pack my tent or take the credit card and just head off somewhere on the bike. Right, next question. We sort of dwindled off the questions there. Next one is Pete English.
You can edit this anyway. It's all right.
No, see, this is the thing. I don't edit the podcast. It's literally it's just conversation, and that's what I love about it, because YouTube is YouTube is normally 6 minutes. Nah.
Actually sounded really good.
Don't be daft. This is awesome. Next one's Pete English. Pete is he's a regular contributor with the questions. I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcasts, but he's got a unique questioning style. So let's see what he's got here. Hi guys, hope you're all fit and well. What a fantastic achievement you both accomplished. Well done, and for such a great charity, one close to my heart. I'm one of the hundreds, if not thousands, of bikers who dream of such an adventure. My question. I was a child of the 70s, growing up without internet, social media and modern technology, and looking back thinking it was the best time to be a child. My question is, how do you think the kids of the future are going to handle life's challenges after growing up in such a sterile environment? Excuse me, you didn't let us down, Pete. Good question.
Good one. Me or you, Dave?
Discuss.
Oh God, I feel like I'm on an interview or something. Like.
Now you're a parent now, Dave, aren't you? You've got a kiddie.
I know it is a very pertinent question. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a good question. I think it is a concern because, I think. But I think it's instinct as well. I think there are instincts involved, and I think the natural human instinct, and it's like life instinct, is for adventure. So there will be people out there who will still crave adventure, who will still want to do these things. It's whether they're going to be able to do them. That's the thing. It's whether there's going to be that. We need to keep the world open. We were fortunate that we were living in a time where you could actually get around the world. I mean, how many times in the history of the world has there been an opportunity for where you can actually ride through almost every country that you want to get around the world? I mean, probably 20 years before, maybe 10 years before we did it, you wouldn't have been able to do that kind of adventure, So I think we've probably lived in we're quite lucky to have been able to do these sort of adventures in this time, because the way the world's going and all this Brexit and, it's like the world's closing off from, everyone's sort of closing off from each other. And we need to be more open and we need to be, letting people through. So, I think I think there's a natural instinct for adventure and there will be people for it. Hopefully they don't find it by virtually going VR and all this stuff and technology wise. And that eases the craving that they have, the natural instincts that they have, and that they actually do go out and want to experience the world. And maybe it could even be other planets and things like that.
I think there's definitely a fear. There's a fear that if the world carries on the way it does, that you're having to find pockets. Where can I find adventure? Where can I really find adventure? I mean, I'm talking serious adventure. I'm not talking about, a little trip down the road. If where is unexplored? What can I do to really rough it? And for me, I'd take. And I fully believe in like the micro adventure, which I think Alistair Humphreys talks about. He was a bit of an inspiration of ours. And he talks about like getting in the garden and camping, and that's an adventure. Do it on a work night, make it something. Go up to the Lake District and climb that mountain. And it doesn't have to be a big around the world trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think sometimes with the social media side of things, people don't feel good enough. Look, me and Dave are under no illusion that what we've done, other people have done. And more so, yourself included. You've been to more countries than we did, Bruce. And there's people out there who've done even more extreme things. There's some real extreme adventurers out there. But it's about finding your level and then going for it. Where's your comfort zone? And then go 3 notches above it.
Absolutely.
Your comfort zone is climbing a mountain in the Lake District. Well, now you're doing Ben Nevis. And let's see what you're made of. And I think that's the secret. But I think with social media, and all you see is the overachievers, the extremists,
and the bullshitters, the bullshitters.
Yeah, can I ever live up to any of that? Will I ever do any of that? And I think you definitely can. And it's about finding your level, ignoring all the social media, and going and doing what you want to do, and ignore it.
100%. I get messages from people all the time. I'd love to do what you've done. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. And I'm just like, don't measure your dreams on other people. It's like just whatever you can afford to do, whatever time you can afford to, you don't need to take a year and a half, 2 years out of your life. If you can only do the weekend, then plan something to do that weekend that you wouldn't normally do. Just as you said, it's your own little adventure, isn't it? And I think what you were saying about, like Dave, when you said about we're sort of being confided in now, aren't we? It feels like the world's shrinking rather than opening up. Part of me thinks, is it, or is that just the media? Do you know what I mean? Because I still travel, and it's no problem to travel in Europe. Yeah. Obviously, at the moment, no, you can't. But with Brexit coming and everything, when I spoke with old Bill, like over in Spain, old Bill that follow my trip from all around Europe, when you speak to them, they're like, nothing's changed as far as we're aware. It's, okay, you might have to show your passport when you get off the ferry at Calais to get into France, but you've always had to do that. So it might take a bit longer. But it's like, once you're in...
We had a saying. We had a bit of a slogan on the trip, as well as Dave's "It's all part of it," which became a bit of a phrase of ours. We had another one, and we actually had this embossed on the back of our panniers. And on one side it said, "We will find a way," and on the other side it said, "Or we will make one." And it's a bit of a common phrase: "We'll find a way, or we'll make one." And I think that's apt now. I think, like you say there, if you really want it and you're really serious about it,
you'll make it happen.
You'll find a way. You'll make it happen. Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah. And as you said, Dave, there will always be those people out there who don't just talk, they do, and no matter what the current situation, like even at the moment, you're not supposed to be out there traveling, but I know people that are out like overland traveling on bikes at the moment. I know people that were overland traveling through Syria and like Afghan during the war, during the conflicts. Yeah, and I'm thinking you're insane, but there's people doing it. And like Tunisia, when the attacks were happening, I know a guy that was out there traveling on his bike, and you're just like, wow, you might think, part of me thinks, Jesus, that's a little bit foolhardy, because if something happens, some poor bugger's got to come out and get you. But the other part of you thinks, well,
you're envious, aren't you? You're envious.
You're out there doing it, aren't you? I think you're always going to get, as you said, you will always get those people. And if you're inclined to be attracted to that sort of life, then those people are the ones that are going to inspire you to do, as you said, Cut, do something a little bit out of your comfort zone, whether that is go up Ben Nevis or get on your bike and toddle off around the world. I think it'll always be there, definitely. Yeah. Right, next question. Adam Sheard. Hi guys, question for you all. What was the most disgusting thing you ate on your trip that was either given to you as a sign of hospitality and you had to eat it, or not, or you ordered not realising what it was and ate to save face?
Yeah, you know what it is. You know what it is, definitely. Yeah. Go on, Bruce, you go first. Sure. I know we're definitely thinking of the same thing, Dave.
Do you know, someone asked me this today or yesterday on his DM on one of the social media things. I don't remember eating anything thinking this is minging.
It's because you eat haggis and you're used to anything.
Well, that's the thing, I was just hungry, so I just ate whatever was put in front of me, and I never asked what it was. I just ate it. So
I pretended to eat this. I ate as much as I possibly could, and then
go on. What was it?
That's when they weren't looking. It was horrendous. So
what was it?
We were in, and it's a surreal story as well. There's like a little bit of a backstory, and I'll try not to keep you for another couple of hours, but. We were in Ukraine, and we got off the road, and we were looking for somewhere to camp out. And conveniently, we camped out, and it looked like there was little crop circles on the field next to us. And it turns out we were camping on a uranium mine, and the uranium was venting through the field and killing off the crops. So anyway, we were totally oblivious to that, and we started camp. We started setting up camp on this uranium mine, and this guy pulls up on a quad thing. Oh no, it was a bike with a little sidecar, and he's like, no, you're like, you can't park. And we're like, why? And Kurt had a Russian to English dictionary, and so this guy flicks through and he points to this word, and the word's uranium. So
whoops.
Right. Okay, yeah. So we're going to have to get out. So then this guy takes us to this other guy's house, to his dad's house or something. His dad,
yeah.
And it's literally built it himself. It's a hut thing. He's got bees. They all have bees in the loft. that were making their own honey.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he had potatoes, and he was doing, honestly, and he cooked us on, and he had the most horrific shower you've ever seen. It was horrendous. And it stank, the place stank. And I was honestly glad to camp outside in his garden than stay in the house. Honestly, but anyway, for that evening meal, like, he cooked us, and hospitality, that's the thing. They just take you in. People just look after you. Even if they've got nothing, they look after you. Yeah. And this guy, and we go in, and we're sat at this little table, me and Kurt, we're just sat there, and this guy brings us over, and it's like mashed potato, but with like raw fish scales and skin in it, and all mixed in. So you're just like, it's absolutely horrendous, and it just tasted like pure horrible thing. You know what I mean? It was, it was horrendous, and for me, that was just like,
The best part about that story was the guy. He goes out into the garden, so me and Dave run with our plates, and we push it back into the pot on the stove. Yeah. And we sit back down and go like, thank you. And then he said, do you want a cup of tea? So we said, yeah, fine. So they bring over the cup of tea. Now, in Eastern Europe, a lot of the time the leaves are still in it. And they give us a teaspoon. We found that they gave us a teaspoon, and you kind of sip it off the teaspoon. So I get my spoon and cup of tea, and I'm sipping it. The guy goes, I don't have another spoon. So Dave's dish was still on the table. It's got this big gloopy bit of this horrible mashy fish, which has now gone cold. It's now gone cold. And he looks at Dave and just goes, like, finish that. And there's your spoon. So Dave then had to eat this cold, mashy fish, horrible stuff, just to have a spoon to be able to drink his tea.
And you sat there with your spoon like that.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. No, I never had anything like that. Not that I remember, but I mean, as you can see, I'm not shy about what I eat, so don't care what it was, just I ate it.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move across onto Facebook now. So, Bryn Bish, how are you lads for time? Are you okay for time?
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm having an evening of it. Let's do it.
Lovely job. Bryn Bish, this trip looks amazing. A dream of most bikers, I'm sure, and a fantastic cause to boot. I suppose for questions, it would be describe your most difficult day, followed by describe the best day of the trip.
Good.
All right.
I would say for me, it would be easy actually to kind of go back to what we were talking about before in Siberia and the arguments and the bikes breaking, and my clutch went at one point, and the times where you really don't think you're going to make it. Yeah, the times where you really don't think you're going to make it, when you're in your tent, you're reading, I don't know, some letters from a past girlfriend saying, all the romantic stuff, and you're sobbing your heart and dreaming of home. It'd be easy to say that, but I think
hang on a minute, Kurt. For the younger members who are watching this, letters are things which we used to write on something called paper before phones.
Yeah. There's no autocorrect then. But I actually think, in some ways, as exciting as it was, the hardest day was probably leaving, because it was so mixed emotions of amazing adventure. I'm going to do it too. I don't know what your experience was like, Bruce, but when we left, we didn't know who would orchestrate the events. We thought, who's going to kind of like go, right, off you go, lads. And in the end, a priest volunteered to do it. So it was like, yeah, fine. It's just, I wouldn't say either of us are particularly overly religious, but we just thought like, yeah, fine. He'll just coordinate the day. And he broke out into this speech, this really emotional thing of like a passage from the Bible, and you will soar like eagles, and everybody was in tears, thinking we're off to a death sentence, these two 22-year-old boys. And I'm getting all emotional going, oh my God, this is it. We're going to die. So I'd say that was, for me, kind of one of the hardest moments, even though it was also one of the most exciting feelings. And then I suppose to really cop out on the question, the best feeling was getting home, the best day in a way. But if I really, really had to pick one day on the actual trip for the best day, Mongolia, like we said before.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could literally, we camped like in it. We literally set it up, and I think there's more of a hill on this side, there's more on that side. And so when the sun rose, it would rise at the front of the tent. So you'd open your tent, and it'd literally rise up. And that's the thing. there's nothing there. And I just really hope that Mongolia is still like that, because I think that's one of the only places in the world that is still wild, that you can literally just live wild and just drive off the road and not feel like you're going to be chased down by police, or you're going to be, you're on somebody's land. It's just not, and it's quite smooth as well. I think because of the altitude, there's something, the skies are really dark blue.
Yeah,
so really
amazing.
Deep blue. So it's absolutely stunning sky. And I think that's because it's quite a high altitude. And so nothing grows really. So it's all like shrubs and bushes and sort of low grass and things like that. There's not many trees. And, it's quite dry. So it's just such a beautiful place and such an easy place to ride on.
Is it?
I just hope, for that sort of, once you get off the road, it's not like easy to ride on, but it's all rolling hills and things like that. The part that we were at, we probably saw maybe about a quarter of Mongolia. There were obviously more treacherous areas, and if you go into outer Mongolia, then you're knackered, I think. And, we didn't go, and then we didn't see the whole of Mongolia, but what we saw, it was just like that. And it was
another good evening. Just to sorry, I've mentioned about 3 good points now, but that was always going to be the case when you asked me this question. Did you go to Lake Baikal?
Yes,
Bruce. Yeah. So there was. I don't know about you, but we ended up on this little island in the middle of Lake Baikal. We got a ferry.
I didn't do the island.
Okay. So there was a night we were camping, and we were sat under the stars, and there's no light pollution whatsoever. And we looked up, and you were just counting shooting stars, and just going, "There's one, there's another one, there's one." And I don't think I'd ever seen a shooting star before that. And the sky was just littered with stars, and you're just seeing one after the other. And I was just like, wow, that moment really sticks with me. And we've got an amazing photograph of it. That was really special.
And it's an ocean of fresh water.
It's insane, isn't it, that lake? It's the biggest expanse, isn't it, of fresh water on the planet.
The third of all the fresh water in the entire world is in that one lake.
Folks, if you've ever seen these videos that do the rounds on social media of, it's basically like waves of ice. It's just ice that's creeping in off of this lake. Well, that is Lake Baikal. It's just a stunning place, isn't it?
It is,
awesome place. You're saying there about the night sky. For me, it was... it's where I get all windswept and interesting. In the Atacama Desert, camping in the desert, just you look up at the sky out there, and as you said, you're in the middle of nowhere. It's the driest place on earth, and there's nothing round about you. And I remember looking up, and you could see the Milky Way. Like the Milky Way was like it was on an 80-inch plasma or LCD TV. It was just breathtaking. But I couldn't take any pictures because I still don't have a fucking clue about photography, and like everything had run out of batteries, and it was just like wow.
But isn't it crazy, Bruce? Where, like we were saying before, you have to go that far to actually see the real nature that's out there. That's what's really crazy. This isn't the real world. That is, and you have to go on a motorbike to the middle of wherever, Africa or Russia, or to see something that spectacular.
I've got this thing in my head now about. I've got a few stupid ideas in my head. One that I'm going to have to do, which is cycling around the UK. I've said I'm going to do it, so I've got to do it now. Well, come join me. Come join me, definitely. And the other one is, I'm starting to think about rowing the Atlantic. I've started to have that in my head.
This is what we talked about rowing the Nile as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that. But the Atlantic, I'd like to do that.
Well,
across.
I had the Scottish lads on the week before, the McLean brothers.
The brothers,
and they were talking about it at night, when you're rowing at night time. Exactly what we've just discussed. You're literally like 2,000 miles out in the Atlantic. There's nothing round about you. The whole sky is sky as far as you can look. Sky then sea. That's all it is. Yeah. And they were saying it was, just looking up. You're closer to people on the space station than you are on land. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nuts.
I think Oh, what was I going to say then? Yeah, I think it's one of those. There was never a point really on the trip, whether we was in the middle of Mongolia or the middle of Kazakh's Gobi Desert or Siberia, where I definitely was aware that we were totally on our own out there. And there's times where we'd laugh about it and go, huh, the nearest person is 1,000 miles that way or whatever. But I never freaked out once.
Yeah.
I never thought like, oh my God, we're in the middle of nowhere. What are we doing? We kind of just laughed about it. And now when I look back, I freak out. I go, we were in the middle of nowhere. What were we doing?
See, I never felt alone. I just never, ever. There was always, somebody would always appear. I remember being in the Sahara, like camping in the Sahara, and someone would turn up.
That's nuts.
You'd be riding, and you're miles away from anywhere, and that somebody would just appear walking through the sand, and you're just, where have you come from? I'm pretty sure
that was a mirage.
But you'd be like, A, where have you come from? And B, where are you going? Because you go by them and you don't see anything for ages.
Yeah.
Anyway, something triggered in my head there when you were chatting, Kurt, when you said about leaving. And I think that was probably one, definitely. I would say leaving was one of the hardest points of the trip. It was that, for me, it was that realization that, oh, right, we got to go now. Now's the time, and it's it's
you
like,
can't talk about it anymore. No, you got to do it.
Yeah, and it's the sudden realization of what you're actually away to do.
Yeah,
I remember I had my son there and all my family, and my wife. She was there, and I remember I think there was a photographer taking some pictures, and I think Big Ben bonged 9 or half 9, whatever it was, and he took some pictures and he was like, right, off you go. And my wife gave me a big hug, and I just started bawling my eyes out. She started crying, I started crying. It was like, oh fuck, I've got to go. All right.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this?
Yeah,
definitely. Right, next one, Jonathan Nichol. How did you deal with I think we've covered this. How did you deal with each other on the trip? At some low points, did you not need your own space to clear your heads, keep going and think of the end goal? Yeah, we kind of covered that, didn't we, earlier?
Yeah, I think if you are going to go on a trip like this, you need separate tents, you need your own space, especially at night, just so you can just sort of process.
We all understand, David. Men need to do what men need to do.
You need a bit of your own time.
I think as well, for me, that little bit of alone space in the tents, it allowed you to do, I'm saying this now because you've turned it into something, you need to do your own thing. And what I mean by that is, I know that Dave would write in his diary, we'd both read our own little books, we'd, whatever, write
I was reading
letters.
Some proper girly book. What was I reading?
You was reading P.S. I Love You. I remember.
I Love You, before the film came out. It was like proper chick one. I was proper into it. I was like really rooting for this woman in this book, like.
Such a sensitive soul. He's such a sensitive soul.
I know. I don't know why I had this book. I was just like, no, let's go with it.
Yeah. I think as much about your own time, it's about just having a few of your own interests as well, just to kind of separate you. Like, this is my thing now. I like to write, or I like to read, or I like to, whatever you can do, that's your own thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a little marriage, isn't it? Or it's a relationship, isn't it? You have to work things out, though, don't you? Because you haven't got the luxury of going, I've had enough of you. I'll just not socialise with you for a week or two. You haven't got that luxury. You've just got to crack on and deal with it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, we hear James Jaw. I think you've already had a bit of a chit chat with him, Dave, on there. He just says, fair play. I've always felt like doing this myself, but unfortunately work gets in the way. A lot of people say that.
I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Work does not get in the way. Your life is getting in the way. And I know that everybody's got careers, and I think one of the advantages we had, we were 22 and we're like, let's do this before we actually get a job. And now we're still like messing around in bits of jobs. I mean, not Dave, he's a teacher, but I'm messing around with jobs. But even then, even if you're a teacher, you take a year out, you take a sabbatical. If you really care about it enough, Dave quit his job. Dave left the military, and then we both had no idea what we were going to do when we come back. And I think it's like that old saying when people are wanting to get fit and work out, and they go, yeah, but I just don't have the time. I'm working and I've got to put the kids to bed. I've got to this. Go, you have. If you really want to get fit, you'll get up half an hour earlier. You'll go to bed a bit later. You'll eat the right things. And I think it's the same with anything like this. If you want it badly enough, the secret behind it, I think, and there's not many things I've felt like this within my life, but it's tunneled vision. And we were just so set on this is what we're doing. And it would never even question. And we'd hear all the, you can't afford it. You're only young. You can't ride a motorbike. It's dangerous. I just say, yeah, whatever. Ignore all the noise.
Yeah.
And we're just so focused on that goal, or I was. And I think I'd just do anything to make it happen. I was like, what do I need? Right, I need 10 grand to do it. Fine. I'm just going to work 3 jobs. And if it takes me in 3 years or 4 years or whatever, I'll have 10 grand and I'll do it. And I think the story from it is you can do whatever you want to do if you really want it. If you're playing with it and like, yeah, I fancy that, you won't do it. But if you want it, you'll do it.
I totally agree. With these sort of trips, though, I mean, it is like, it is a lot of people, you want to have a nice life, you want to be settled, you want to have a family and things like that, and that's why I think for me, I knew that was the perfect time for us, because I knew I was going to leave the military, we were going to do this. And then I knew that after that, I'd want to do sort myself a family and a career and things like that. Do you know what I mean? But, that was why it was so crazy for us, because we were so young. We had no motorbike experience or anything like that. And that's why we were lucky that we actually managed to complete it. But, a lot of people do spend their lives planning these sort of trips. And we met people en route who were doing probably trips, like to Mongolia or to, and they were going to take the Trans-Siberian back or something like that. Amazing trips. But they'd sort of been planning them for years and years and think, when I retire, I'm going to do this trip. And again, that's another way of doing it. You've got, you can do it before you have your family and your life and your career and things like that. What we did, or, you can be planning it and preparing it and build up to it. And then at that early retirement, get out there and, and experience the world as well,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it gets my goat a little bit when people go, oh, I would love to do that. You're so lucky to be able to do that. And I'm a bit like you there, Kurt, and I think I am lucky. I am fortuitous, but I worked fucking hard for 3 and a bit years, remortgaged, sold everything I owned, and even then I couldn't afford it. I managed to pick up some sponsorship along the way, and the generosity of random strangers that started following, that started putting tanks of fuel through like PayPal me tanks of that. I was just really lucky. It was going to end when I got to Australia, as far as my budget was concerned. But kindness of strangers, and I sort of pre-sold my book and my DVD to generate the funds to get home. So, but eventually, you have to pay for that, don't you? I then had to pay to get the book published and pay to produce the DVD and everything. But where there's a will, there's a way, and you sacrifice
and I think
stuff and you get it done.
Comfort. If you're expecting to go around on a brand new BMW with the best panniers and the best gear and a tent that can go into -40 and then you're going to make it hard. Or you can just go, you know what? I'm just going to go. I'm just going to wing it, see what happens, and just take what you can afford and rely on strangers. Yeah, it'll be rougher, but isn't that why you do it? Isn't that part of the adventure?
Absolutely. So, for some people, want to do the hotel thing. They want to do the tourist route as they're doing it. Whatever, it's an individual thing, isn't it? Whatever is your idea of an adventure trip.
Because doing the adventure, but having somebody take you or somebody who knows where these amazing places are and doing that can be the trip of an absolute lifetime as well. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, you going out there and just doing it all yourself. Everybody's adventure is different. Like you said before, Kurt, it's, it could be going to Ben Nevis if you've done the Lake District. It's pushing yourself out there, and it can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
isn't it?
There's plenty of people out there, like I said, that have done a lot more than what me and Dave did. And there's some of the crazy stuff people have done. I'm like, Jesus, wow, he's a crazy nutter,
Yeah.
And it's where your limit is and pushing it. It's always about pushing boundaries, always.
But you've got to do it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're not doing it to compare yourself to anybody else. You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you are doing it to be better than somebody else or to do more than somebody else, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah. It's what you were saying there about the people you meet along the way. It just astounded me. Obviously, I made a big song and a dance about doing my trip on social media because, you know, I was trying to raise the money for charities and stuff, and to me, that's social media was sort of blossoming at the time. So it was like, right, let's get hold of this. But I met people that were doing, like there was a geezer, I've talked about him loads on this podcast, who was walking for peace, and he'd been walking for 15 odd years, I think, by the time I went by him in, God, I can't remember which country it was. It was Romania or Ukraine or somewhere like that. I went by him in the road, and he was walking, pushing a buggy with a big billboard on it that just had "Walking for Peace" on it, and he looked like the geezer out of is it Life of Brian, where the guy's living in the hole, not Jehovah, that one. He just looked like him, you know, like sun-bleached
that's
skin.
how long he's been walking.
Yeah, and this guy was just, you know, I don't think he even had a website from what I remember on the board, but that was his thing. He was just out walking.
Yeah.
Crazy what folk are doing. Right, Joe Kochtry, easy pair of questions. Best country and worst country. I think, have we covered that? Have we covered best country, worst country?
Not as such.
We'll do it again.
Bitched about some countries and praised other ones.
Right, best country then.
England.
Oh, no.
You never been to Scotland?
Yeah. do you know the one place that I actually got robbed was we literally gone all the way around the world. We literally we had a problem with the bikes, so the bikes didn't get back at the same time as us. So we had to fly back to Manchester and fly out to Frankfurt and then ride our bikes back from Germany in one night, literally. And good job we were hardened bikers by then, because that was nothing to.
That was actually the longest day of the whole trip we did.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah.
But anyway, we had to get we're getting the ferry from Dover, from Calais to Dover. And we decided to sleep on the thing. And as I was lying there, an Everton supporter nicked my helmet. And I didn't notice. Yeah, I didn't notice until I got to my bike. And then one of the stewards on the ferry went, is this your helmet? And I went, yes, where was that? And he was like, one of the Everton supporters was trying to get on the coach with it. And I was just absolutely furious. I've got all the way around the world. I've been through some of the poorest countries in the world, and it's an Everton supporter between Calais and Dover.
Other football teams are available.
Yeah. He's going to nick something off me now. I was going to get on that bus and find out that I'm fuming.
Can I just put a slight disclaimer in there, just to let you know that Dave is also a Liverpool fan? So there is a little bit like, you know.
not hard on Liverpool. I'm not a big football man.
I was kind of the same. Like, the whole trip, to my knowledge, I don't think anything got nicked until I got to the TT on the last stage of the trip. Yeah. And someone, I was camping at the campsite off the start-finish straight, and so I left my tank bag on the bike because it had all my tools in it, and someone nicked my tank bag with all the tools and everything.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That's it. We may have been robbed like at times around the world, but it was kind of like okay, because it was kind of like, I get it, you need money, they're robbing you for the money, but you know when it's something that you need to survive off your bike, a tent or a helmet, or it's like, no, that's low.
What's an Everton sport going to do with a helmet?
I know. But just to go back to your question.
But like it's Murphy's, he's not better.
Best and worst country.
Best and worst country for me. It depends what you want. People ask me this a lot, and I always say it depends what you want. If you want to go on holiday for 2 weeks, I'm not going to send you to Mongolia. I'm going to send you to America. I go, it's great out there. Have a 2 weeks over there in LA. But if you're talking scenery, experience, just that whole thing, I would say it keeps taking me back to Mongolia. Worst country. And I'm going to have to say it because just of the experience, I'm going to have to say that stretch in Siberia. But it's probably because of the solitude and the difficulty of it, more so than the people, I guess, overall.
Yeah. To me, I think I enjoyed that because it was the experience. I didn't enjoy it, but I enjoyed the thought of thinking back of it and thinking that we did it and that achievement. But the best place for me was actually Mongolia. Was amazing, and that's it is an amazing place. And if you are looking for an adventure, Mongolia is the place. But when we got to LA, and we, there's a little town called Snelling, and it was we went from the LA, and we went up to San Francisco, and obviously we camped on the beach between LA and San Francisco. And when we got to San Francisco, we headed inland towards Yosemite, and literally so we've gone from the beach, big cities, beach, and then the next day we're in Yosemite. We're in the mountains, and it's like a giant version of the Lake District. And then the next day, you're in Death Valley, and you're in the middle of the Wild West and the desert and things like that. It's like there is nowhere in the world where you can go from the coast to the mountains to a desert. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In such a short space of time, obviously, and the roads are amazing. The roads are so smooth; it's just easy, especially when you've just come. I'm so glad we did it that way and not the other way.
Yeah, imagine going the other way.
Gone into Russia, you'd be like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" At least you leave that nice bit to the end. Yeah. And you just sort of cruise. And we just sort of, I think because we arrived there and then this guy, this Erdem, took us in and we stayed, and he's got his own pool, in this complex thing. We were on some sort of Suzuki blog site that we didn't even know about. But this guy gets in touch with us because we didn't blog or anything. So we found ourselves on this Suzuki blog site and people commenting on us, and we'd not even put anything on there. So we were like, and this guy was in LA, and he was like, if you get to LA, come and stay with us. We're like, hey, let's get in touch with this guy.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here.
Yeah. So we turned up, and then this guy looked after us for like a week.
Brilliant.
But anyway, to go between them places, it's stunning. I think that it is an amazing place if you want a nice trip.
Definitely. Like you said, the States, there's a lot of things wrong with the States, but there's a lot of things great with the States, isn't there? It's like, as you said, in that one massive country, there's every type of road riding you can think of. Yeah. And if you're one of these freaks that actually enjoy off-roading, then there's some stunning off-road and proper out there, hostile environment, adventure type off-roading, if you want to do that as well, yeah. The wife and I, some of our best holidays is literally just flying to the States, no plan, hire a big truck and just go on a road trip for 10 days, 2 weeks. It's brilliant fun.
Amazing.
Love doing that. Great fun. Yeah. What about Dave, for you, worst country?
Worst country? Do you know, it was, oh God. I want to say, like, everything draws me to Ukraine because of that experience and being afraid of, and just not enjoying it because of that experience. And it's probably completely different now. This was a long time ago, and maybe it's less like that. But it was. I just couldn't. I couldn't relax. You know what I mean? And I felt, but the people were lovely, and the people really wanted to show, look, we're not like that. And I think the problem was at the time, and obviously there's been revolution and civil war in Ukraine since then. And you could almost see that side of it because it was part of the old Soviet Union. That sort of the police and the military stuff almost still had that Russian influence, I think, maybe. And they were just a little bit, and you could see there was that conflict, and the people were desperate to say, look, we love Western people, we like Europeans, we want to be more European, but the country wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Politically, it wasn't in that frame, and so it was still quite very corrupt. and things like that. So I think that, there may be change now, but at the time it just I didn't feel comfortable crossing that border and getting in there, and then and those experiences that we had. But the people were lovely, and they really looked after us, and they did appreciate us, and they did want us to be there, and they want people to see, look, we're nice people, and like anywhere.
I remember finding that in Romania. It's like the Romanian people were so friendly, and they wanted to show you that they're not, you think of Romania and you think of the Romanian pickpockets that you get around London and all the cities and stuff. And the Romanian people are very conscious of that sort of persona that the West gets about them because of that. And they, again, like you said, they are so desperate to show you we are not like them. We don't like them. That is not us. Come, we will show you like Romanian hospitality. And I had a great time there. Loved it. It's talking about Ukraine. One of my overriding memories about Ukraine was crossing the border to get in, and the soldier or police, whoever it was that was stood there, all he wanted me to do was wheelie the bike. So I'm not
I've never wheelied the bike.
Yeah, I'm not a wheelie demon, but I've just crossed into Ukraine, and there's a guy in combats, like fatigues, with a gun telling me to wheelie. So I was just like, okay. So I just gave it a fistful of throttle, popped the clutch, and wheelied uncontrollably into Ukraine.
Wheelie or die.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it felt. But I mean, I'm sure he was no threat. Anyway, Simon Lloyd, if you go around the world as young men, which is fantastic, how do you keep the rest of your life up there and it not become a big low, especially when you become part of this system? Oh, yeah, that's what we were chatting about earlier. So, I mean, we have covered it, but...
Yeah, I think it just shapes you. I think it just shapes the future you once you've done something like this. And I think you'll always crave adventure. And that's why I did touch on it before. I mentioned Alistair Humphreys. And for anybody who doesn't know him, he cycled around the world like years back, and he wrote a book about it. And we actually went to see him one of his talks before we did our trip, just for a bit of advice, really. Yeah. And he now talks about the micro adventure. And for those people who can't get out there all the time, it's about climbing the mountains, it's about running a marathon, it's about, even learning a new skill. I'm going to learn guitar, I'm going to speak a foreign language. And it's so easy to just live the monotonous life, go to work, come home, put Netflix on, eat your tea, do the same the next day. And it takes just as much effort in some ways to motivate yourself to do these little adventures than it does to plan a big one. The big one's easier in a way because you can go, look what I'm doing, everybody. And everybody talks to you about it. So it keeps you on track. Nobody's really bothered if you're going to go and learn Spanish out of college. They go, all right, yeah, good luck.
Man, that's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think it's important to just try and stay. I want to say motivated, but motivation won't see you through. It's about building habits. It's about building habits of a lifestyle where you're always curious. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Nice.
We are a little bit of yin and yang. I'm going to say,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the way we are. And that's great. And that's where we balance each other out. But for me, personally...
The next argument's coming.
It was about, for me, all my life experiences and things, all that was all about sort of building who I am and my confidence up, okay, and into who I am. So for me, I feel like doing the military, from school and then going off and doing this trip and things like that is sort of made me who I am. And I feel more, I feel content to actually have, a normal life with a family and a career, but to have that, and that's, and this is who I am, but I'm still this person, and I've done these amazing, I've done these great things, and it sort of shaped me to who I am. And I'm not I love to, obviously I'm naturally I crave adventure, and I do like to do adventurous things and things like that, but I don't feel like I need to do the next thing. Do you know what I mean? Or I don't feel like I can't settle into a normal life and have a family and a normal job and feel like I'm missing something, because I feel like I've done things that have shaped who I am and developed my confidence and my self-belief that I can achieve things if I want to.
Nothing to prove.
I don't feel like I've got to do something else, and I would love to do something else, but I'm not. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been like that. People are always asking, "Oh, what's next? What's next? What's next?" And up until a couple of years ago, I think probably COVID's exasperated it, because we've all been locked down, and even if you were able to go and do something, you can't at the moment. You just can't. But I was like you, Dave. I kind of felt to myself, well, the thing I had to prove to myself was that I could do the trip, and I could do it on the bike, and I've done that. So I've got nothing left to prove, and it takes a big commitment and a lot of drive, doesn't it, to accomplish something like that. It does take a lot of energy and constant drive, and that's what you focus on. And I kind of just felt content. But in the last couple of years, I've just started to, that little fire's starting to be there, and it's like, I'm not talking about buggering off. Yeah, but it's like not buggering off for like a year or 2 years on end, but just that maybe a month away here, or like 2 or 3 months to just row across an ocean, and, that little thing.
I'm drawn by things like that. Like when people sort of say, like if Kurt was to turn around and say, let's row across the Atlantic, I was like, right, okay. Well, it has to be achievable within my own life at the moment. I've got a young child and a wife and things like that. But I am, like say, you've got that natural urge for adventure. And you've got that natural urge to do something. And I think it's an innate thing. You've literally got it, and you have to, you want to sort of to do those sort of things. Do you know what I mean? And it's just sort of comes. And I understand. I totally get that.
What I'm hearing here, Bruce, is a 3-man boat.
If you fancy it.
I'm probably going to disappear in a minute because my Wi-Fi is going to go down, and my wife's going to pull the plug out.
Click. My missus will be next door listening, going, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Right, before we get ourselves in trouble, next question. Adi Newart, sounds good. Maybe here we go. Maybe a re-release of the DV would be a good idea. Absolutely. Come on, you boys should be on the rooftops shouting about what you've done.
That's you, Dave. That's all you.
I've got it all on. It's all on a hard drive, and I've still got the DVD. I've still got a copy, and it just about works. But I don't know what to.
One bit of advice, if I can. One bit of advice. Forget the DVD. Make it a download. Download it. It's so easy. So easy. Honestly. No, just create from the DVD. Your DVD split into 2 DVDs, 2 discs, isn't it? And
I've got it.
Like
it's all
6
on
episodes, isn't it?
Drive as well.
Right. So what you want to do is combine everything into. Well, it's up to you. You can either keep them as individual episodes, and you can just offer each episode. People can buy it for $1.99 or something, right? And
$9.99.
That's something I've learned. See, for the downloads, cheaper is better.
Yeah.
Because people will look at $1.99 and go, that's worth a punt. $9.99, they're going.
I'm a bit sad for this, because I literally, like, every year I create little family videos and stuff like that. I'm a natural sort of. I like to hoard memories into videos and things like that. So I've literally got all my family videos, like, from when I was a kid to literally this year. So I've done 2019 video. Mm-hmm. And so I've got all that. But, when I originally created the DVD, and I had all the songs and everything like that, all those songs that are in it are all from what were playing in my ears when we were doing the trip. And so they
need to change all that.
Resonated with them. But I didn't really sort of create it for that. I created it for myself, and for us to sort of have those memories. And it's super cheesy because of all the tunes that I've got on it, that I create. And obviously they're all probably copyrighted and things like that. So every time, so things like that, it's sort of like, I don't want to get in, with sort of, I'd probably have to re-edit it because I don't have the software that I edited it on.
All right.
I have to take the tunes out.
Yeah, you will, because all my whole Round the World series, 17, 18 videos on YouTube, I don't make a penny out of any of that because I used copyright. I'm the same as you. I used the music that I liked listening to on the trip. So, stereophonics and all sorts on it. So you don't make I've had a couple of videos that have been taken down because of copyright.
We used to, like, obviously when we first made it, we put it on YouTube, and YouTube at the time only had you could upload a maximum of 3 minutes. Yeah, because the largest video you could put on. That's why it's short. That's the length that YouTube videos were. That trailer video that I've made is the length that YouTube would actually accept. The amount of times that I put it on and they took it off because of the songs that were on it. I was like,
on there now though. Song. On that YouTube video now, it's allowed. That song is allowed on there, and the trailer is still on there at the moment. That biking for Barnados around the world trailer is still on there, and it's around the world in 3 minutes or something.
Yeah,
folks, if you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes, and if you're watching it, look at the vid description. I'll put a link to that promo vid there. Sorry, boys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. There's we did also. Well, I suppose I wrote the book as well. Yeah, which is another way of documenting it, which was great. And that was, I think, when we went away, I was speaking into a dictaphone the whole time because I couldn't be bothered writing, whereas Dave was writing his diary. And then it took me years to actually collate all this together
it does,
and turn it into an actual book. Yeah. And obviously it's been released very, very recently. Sorry?
But it's like a running joke with all our friends, wasn't it? Kurt's book. It took them less time to write the bloody Bible than it took to write.
I know. But it's nice now. I look back on that a chapter of my life, and I think we've got the book, there's the DVD, and it just kind of rounds it off a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where can people get the book then?
This book?
Yes, that book.
This whole thing.
Honestly, it is brilliant.
Where'd you get it?
Much time.
Yeah, so you can again, maybe if you could put the link in.
Of course, absolutely.
Bruce. Yeah, it's through a publisher called The World's Fair, and if you Google The World's Fair, or even the title of the book, which is Riding the World on a Wing and a Prayer, you can find the link for it there.
Right, I'll put a link down below, folks. It'll be there.
Thank you.
Definitely. And I'll do the old Instagram swipey up thing for it as well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
We'll get that, no problem.
I should probably we could just put these videos on YouTube. I mean, I'm not we don't need to make money off it. We just want to,
But then, you could still, for the DVD, if you made it download, do what you like. But if you made it download, even if you don't want to take any profit from it, send the profits to Barnados.
Or
whatever your charity is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think it was the same with me with this book. I wasn't planning on it being a bestseller. I just wanted to round the whole thing off and document it and kind of go, right. It was just a nice achievement to go, I've written a book, and there it is on a shelf in a library or, propping up a door somewhere. So
do you know what? It's when you find them on eBay or Amazon, people are reselling them. I've had that a few times, and you're like,
or you're reading the reviews, going, no.
Don't read the reviews. Just that's something I've learned. But no, people love, that sort of trip. If you do get the chance to look at the DVD, folks, it's like mine. This was 2008. You did yours, and mine was 2012, 2013. Technology's come on a long way these days, hasn't it? So you look at the quality of the content that Joe Blogs can produce compared to what we could do back 2008, 2012. You've not got any stabilization. The resolutions aren't great, but especially your DVD, it's two 20-odd-year-old lads going out on the adventure of your lives. And it's raw and it's as it happens. Oh, I love it. I'm not just saying that, kissing your arses because you're here. It's brilliant viewing. So if you get the opportunity, folks, make sure you see it.
Thank you, Bruce.
No worries.
I don't know. I'm going to send you a book, Bruce, as well. I'll get your address afterwards. I'm going to send you a book.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Very kind of you.
I'd be interested to for you to read it from one biker to another.
I'll do that then. Thank you.
He might
Top
sign
man.
it for you as well.
do you guys have never done any of the
No.
like overland shows or anything, have you?
No, nothing. We've not done anything. No, we've not done. This is the first podcast or blog or anything we've done.
Do you fancy doing one?
Later.
Yeah.
There's a really good one called the Overland event, and that's one that I try to do every year, but I couldn't do it last year, and I'm not going to be able to do it this year either, sadly. But it's brilliant, really friendly. They're always looking for new people because they've got this, the old crusties like me that just get churned out every single year. Well, they need new, fresh stuff, and
fresh stuff from 12 years ago.
yeah, but. You've not banged the drum about it at all, and it's a fantastic story.
We kind of just did it and then just went back to normal. Normality and never spoke of it again.
Yeah, we did it for us, didn't we? And that was the main thing. And it's great to tell our stories, and I'm really pleased that you wanted us on, for a chat and things like that. So that we really like to talk about it, but obviously we're not sort of here we are, Do you know what I mean? We're just quite.
I think our friends ruined this for us because as soon as we mention it to our friends, they'll go, "Oh yeah, the bike trip." I'll go, "Oh no, nobody wants to hear about this then, so we'll just be quiet."
That's what I get. My mate, my good mates, Jimbo and Dave. Dave always says to me whenever I see him, if anyone, because I get people coming up and going, "Oh, you TeapotOne," and all this. It's great. I love it. But the second anything that happens, or if I even mention the trip, Dave's like, "Teapot time, you've got 10 minutes, that's all you're allowed." He literally gets the watch out. He's like, 10 minutes, go.
I think as well, because we weren't real bikers. We never felt like we were proper bikers. We felt more like adventurers who were going around on a motorbike. And I think it was strange when we got to LA and this guy who had been following us on this Suzuki blog thing, and he was like, you guys are like true bikers. I'm like, hold on, I'm not a biker. I'm just some kid on like, you think I'm a biker? Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know anything about bikes. I'm not a biker.
I know, yeah, you feel like you've got something to live up to, don't you? And you're just I just winged it like everyone else. I just winged it.
It's not like, I'm not an expert in anything. And I think that was probably one of the things when we got back. It was like, we're not really, we were lucky really that we managed to do it. I suppose you could, people can relate to that, I suppose, because most people probably feel like that I can't do that because I'm not a proper biker. But that's the thing, I suppose, is it doesn't, there's not that person who is, that a biker. It's just people who ride motorbikes, isn't it?
But to give you the credit where it's due, not everybody is the type of person that does it. There's a lot of people that talk about it. There's loads of people that wish they could do it. There's a lot of people that talk about it. There's not that many that actually do it and see it through. And that's the difference, isn't it? It's just that take that leap of faith, that first step, let's go and let's get on with it and get it done. Yeah. And you did that.
Yeah.
Right, we'll crack on. Are you okay for time? What are we at now?
Yep.
Just over 2 hours. Beautiful. Right, we'll do Instagram now.
Like a full bottle of rum. It's great.
Good effort.
I need a wee, actually.
Do you want a natural break?
I'll have a quick wee. I won't be 2 seconds.
We'll have a pee time, excuse us. Right, folks, whilst we have a natural break, I only have one sponsor readout, and that is from Inov. If you've seen any vids over on the channel, you'll see I've done a number of review and installation vids covering their single camera C5 system through to the dual K2 and K5 systems. Essentially, folks, they are dash cams for your motorcycle. Literally fit and forget. With these systems, the second you turn the ignition on, the camera is activated, it continually loop records. It's got GPS sensors fitted to it, so not only can it track your ride and overlay it onto Google Maps, but it also has a G-Shock sensor on it, so if it detects any sudden movement, then it will mark and protect those files too, so they can't be overwritten. The latest systems even have parking mode fitted to them, so your bike is totally protected 24/7 with no battery drain because of their built-in DC converter which monitors the battery voltage. It really is a fit and forget system. Head on over to innov.co.uk for more information. Okay, back to the podcast.
Now, I don't know who it was, but through my headset, I could actually hear a toilet flushing. So you may need to edit some of this, Bruce.
Were you reading your book? I thought you were. You reading your book?
Actually, no.
Right.
I very nearly did, but yeah,
right, no worries.
People have got to pay for it. So.
No, normally I edit out the natural break, but if you were going to read a bit of your book, I was just going to leave it in.
Oh, I wish I'd have known.
There's only a couple of questions left on Instagram, but there's still a few there to see. Yeah. How is it? You all right? You relaxed for it? You enjoying it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a decanter and everything. Look at him.
Don't mess about me.
He's posh, isn't he? Nice one. Right, we are all relieved. We've had a natural. We'll crack on then. So this is Instagram at TeapotOne Insta. First one, the Arctic Rider. This is Gordon. He's done quite a bit of adventure travel on his bike as well. Done a lot of stuff for charity.
Like it. The Arctic Rider.
He's a good lad. Sounds amazing. How much were the charity able to support and raise awareness of your trip? So you did it for Barnados, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a bit of a story behind this as well, actually. So at the time we were planning it, I'll be honest and I'll say we didn't really have a charity that close to our hearts. I think we were still young, and sometimes it takes a bit of life experience for something to come close to your heart. Somebody dies of some disease or to be honest, we'd had no real hardship, so we're like, what should we do it for? So we just went, we'll do it for kids. Everybody, we're nearly kids ourselves, so we'll do it for kids. So we chose the Rainbow Trust originally, and it was going to be called Riding for Rainbow. And then the charity, they kind of got a bit of cold feet about us, either not thinking we would do the trip, and we were collecting money on behalf of it and then wasn't going to go through with it. And there was some kind of rules or laws around collecting money before you could do it. And if you didn't do it, then you'd have to somehow return the money. And it all got a bit complicated. And they basically didn't have faith in us, I think, to do it. So they wanted us to start collecting pledges. So will you sponsor me? And at a later date, go back and collect the money for charity. It's just not the way we want to do it. It just seemed like a nightmare. All we're trying to do is just get some money for charity. And the easiest way to do that, the better. So in the end,
there was no GoFundMe pages or anything like that in them days.
That's
right.
It was
actually call up a charity on the phone and say, I'm looking at doing this. Can we use your name and can we do it on your behalf and raise money? Sort of thing. Yeah. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, so in the end, it was like buckets on the street kind of thing, and anybody wants to throw a fiver in or whatever. In the end, we spoke to Barnados. They couldn't have been more relaxed about the whole thing, basically. They just said, yeah, absolutely. Here's a bit of a funding pack. Here's the T-shirt. Do what you want. So it's like, great, that's all we wanted to know. Just we'll raise as much awareness as we can and we'll do what we can for you. They're dead flexible. We're dead flexible. And it was just really easy.
Mm-hmm. And did they help you along the way? Like, did they? I suppose social media wasn't a big thing, was it?
No.
2008.
No, they didn't do anything.
No, nothing.
In that respect,
but we didn't want anything. We're just happy to raise the money for them. And because it felt like if you're going to do something like this, you may as well do it for charity. And we didn't want or ask them for anything. We just said, look, can we do it? And at the end, here's a check, and that was the end of it.
It's so different now, though, isn't it? Like social media is just so ingrained into every aspect of people's lives, and phones are there. It's just instant, isn't it? So it's a massive thing now. But 2008, I remember. My wife won't like this. I was the lassie I was seeing at the time, and I remember her talking about Facebook, and she was going, "Oh, you need to get on this thing called Facebook." And I remember going, "What's Facebook?"
It'll never take off.
Yeah, and she showed me, and I was like, "Why the hell would you want that? Like pictures of cats and what you've had for tea? What? Nah, I'm not interested in that." And now it's basically part of my life. Next one. Watts 1984. I bought the book based on a post you put up. It was a brilliant read. Oh, excellent. I got you a sale then. Happy days.
Oh, thank you very much. and a nice review.
Yeah, they were that review. Yeah. Richards 4275. Question. COVID aside, is it more or less dangerous to do the same trip now than compared to 2008?
Do you know, one of the issues that we had just on the trip, because we got into Russia at one point, and this just sums up the world, at any point, is we got into Russia, and Russia invaded Georgia while we were in Russia. So in 2008, Russia invaded Georgia, and then America cut all flights between Russia and America. So we couldn't we couldn't go up to and then fly to Alaska, which is what we wanted.
From Magadan,
Magadan, yeah. So we wanted to actually follow the long way round up to Magadan and then across to Alaska. But we and that's the thing, you can't predict what the world's going to be like, can you? And whether you're going to be able to get places. So then, we ended up, and this goes back to these. There's so many people on this trip that we literally could not have done this trip without these people, and they just said, right, we'll sort you, get a ferry to Sokcho, we'll get a truck to pick you up in Seoul and take you to Seoul, and we'll fly you from Seoul to LA. And that's the way you can do it from South Korea instead of from there. So, I think it's difficult, isn't it, to say whether. I think some aspects it would be easier, like you're saying about the roads. There's possibly more. These countries are probably going to be more developed. I think Mongolia might be slightly more developed. I have no idea actually, but.
I think what you've got as well is now you've got a whole network behind you. You've got biking communities and blogs and what you're doing, Bruce, like going out there and being a voice for this adventure travel, and you can contact people easily, just straight into your messages and go, right, what's this? I think the closest we got was we saw a book on a shelf by a guy who cycled around the world, and then eventually found out he was doing a talk somewhere in a university and drove to meet him and go, right, try and get as much information and scribble it down as we can, and then off we go again.
And as well, on the trips, the only way you found out things was you'd literally see a bike. You'd see either somebody who had a European number plate, or you'd see them coming the other way, and you'd literally be like, oh my God, there's somebody from Europe. Let's pull over. Let's have a chat. and they might know something. And so you're literally passing on information on the side of the road. So we met that many people on the side of the road like that. There was a French head teacher who was on a Suzuki V-Strom 650 like us, with no panniers on or anything, and he was literally just he looked like a complete idiot. And this guy was a head teacher with nothing on his own in the middle of Russia, and it's just fantastic. You just meet these people. And it's different, isn't it, then? Because you're really everyone's desperate to sort of find somebody that they can communicate with and that they can get information from. Whereas nowadays, it's all there. Everything's there for you.
But I think it's probably still the same now when you're actually boots on the ground. When you're actually out there doing it. Yeah. When you do see another biker coming, then they always stop. People always stop, and you always have a chat, don't you? And you always chat. Where have you come from? Where you going? What's it like here? What's it like there? And definitely, social media massively helps. You've got Horizons Unlimited, the hub now, which is just just a bible. There's so much information.
Do you know that was around? That was around when we did it. Yeah, and it was just a blog thing, and there was a little cult thing. The odd little post. But it was like a website, and it was really basic. I've not seen it since, but I do remember Horizons Unlimited. So they must be a big influence now.
Oh, massive!
The only one. I think it was the only one around.
Yeah, they are pretty much the motorcycle overland Bible still to this day. It's just. It's basically a website you can go onto, folks. It's part of horizonsunlimited.com. It's a thing called the Hub, which is like the old forums. It's that sort of idea, isn't it? And it's just this huge, massive knowledge base of people who've done trips and people who are doing trips and people who are planning trips. So you're always getting up-to-date information on any aspect, from visas, carnets, what medication you need, where's the fuel, what's this road like, how do I do this border crossing, which is the best border crossing, how do you do the shipping?
Do I need a COVID passport?
You imagine what it's like now, though, people thinking, oh God, Brexit.
I think,
How do I get a bike from? If I'm taking a bike from an Irish registered bike, how do I get that through the UK and then through all of Europe and then into this place and that place?
Well, I think there's definitely going to be challenges now that, as much as we're talking there about how easy it will be, there's got to be difficulties now that are more so than what we were doing, you know.
Definitely. And I think places like Africa as a continent is always a very volatile place. And it changes by the hour. You know, it's literally it can be fine in the morning, but by lunchtime you ain't getting in there, or you're not getting out of that country, and it's just you just deal with it, and sounds terrifying, but at the time you just deal with it, and you know.
Well, you have no choice.
No, you don't. You don't. And I think adventure travel is very much like life, isn't it? You can plan all you like, but at the end you just have to deal with whatever comes up at that particular stage in the journey, and you deal with it, and you either work out an alternative, or you sit and wait till what you want to do can happen. It's up to you.
And it's the same as like you saying, you know, you went on similar routes to us, you know, through some parts of your trip, but you had a completely different experience. And every journey, every adventure is different, isn't it? You know, and it's different for every person. So, you know, and your adventure will be if you get stopped at that place, and you've got to figure out how you get round it, how you get through it. That's the adventure. Yeah. That's what you're doing it for.
Yeah. By all means plan, but don't expect it to stick to that plan.
Make some photocopies, and then there you go.
So, yeah, definitely.
Get a compass and you'll be all right.
Boys, we have gone through all the questions. That is us, 2.5 hours. That's not a bad effort. Not a bad effort.
What are we talking about now?
That was 10 years of frustration built up.
I'm not going to chat about this for ages.
If you boys want to do that, if you want to do the old presentations and stuff, I can put you in touch with two chaps, Paddy and Saul, who organise the Overland event. I'm sure they would be more than happy to, to have you lads along if you fancy it.
Yeah, I'll have a go at that. Yeah, I've still got the bike in the garage. So
there you go.
Do you know what? I used mine when I got back, and I used it to commute to work, and then we had a really bad winter. It was probably about 2010, something like that. And I took a left turn at traffic lights, skidded completely off, sent it under a bus.
No, seriously.
So my bike, but I completely, literally, the whole side of it had gone. I had some tape in my top box, taped it up, and then carried on riding to work. And then got home the next time. It's just like, I'm going to have to stop this. I'm not going to survive much longer.
The spirit of Dave's bike lives on in mine.
Yeah, definitely.
I couldn't believe it.
Have you still got the bike, or did you get rid of it?
I have. Oh,
no, Dave, yeah. Have you still got yours?
I don't have it. No, I sold it.
Imagine how good that would look. Trashed. You know, next to yours. Your one's flat.
Well, I'm not saying mine's in good condition, Bruce, by any means. You know,
the irony is,
you should see my bike.
Kurt's is in good condition, and I sold mine for probably more than what you get for yours now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like for parts.
Yeah, I've still got mine, but it's not. I don't put it on the road just because I couldn't bear something like that happening to it. You know.
Yeah, same.
It just sits in the garage, but I would still like to. I would just like to get her back on the road, just to stretch her legs on a nice day. And
maybe we should get both of those round the world bikes on the road and just have a little meet up, just for a little blast. And then go, there we go. Put them back into retirement. They've still got it. There's life in the old dog. Yeah,
well,
that would make a great vid, wouldn't it? That would make a great vid.
It's literally
Dave can hire a bike.
two Suzukis. Oh, yeah. Or 3 Suzukis. You'll have to hire a Suzuki.
Yeah.
But I literally saw Kurt's just moved into his house around the corner, and literally saw your bike for the first time since we got back. I think pretty much that's the first time I've seen it, and it's weird because it was literally last week that I've seen his bike and I got on it, and literally it just comes back to you. I've not been on a bike in probably a decade.
Oh, you don't ride at all now?
Straight away, huh?
You don't ride at all anymore?
I don't have a bike. No, I'd love to ride a bike. I'd love to have a bike, but I don't have one.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to say it was family, and I'd like to blame it on other people, but I'm probably partially responsible. But yeah, no, I'd love to have a bike again one day.
Man, do it. Do it.
But it just came naturally to me. As soon as I got on there, I was like, clutch. You know, like just come straight back.
Well, we know where this part of you for so long, doesn't it? I think you're so in tune with the bike, like you spend that many hours on it that, and you know, when you're not on it, it starts to feel a bit strange almost.
Oh, definitely. My wife knows. You know, she knows when I need to get out on the bike. She's just like, just bugger off. Yeah. I'll see you in a couple of days or next week. Just go.
Yeah.
I wish my wife would tell me to bugger off.
I think we know where this is going to go, Dave. I can see a bike in your horizon.
Oh, don't stop it.
I'm going to let you into a secret here. After sitting on my bike, he immediately got a bike trainer and started looking at stuff.
There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful.
The internet's going to go any second now. She's going to.
Mega. Boys, this has been awesome. It's been 10 years in the making, but it's been awesome to finally catch up with you over a couple of beers.
Yeah, brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure, Bruce, and it just makes me want to come and see you again. I've met you once before down in London, didn't I?
Downing Street, wasn't it?
Yeah, down at Downing Street. Bruce.
Yeah,
Bruce, got me to the door. Yeah, it was amazing.
I didn't.
You can edit that bit as well, Bruce. You can take that bit out. You can take that bit out. Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, it sticks with me. And and I think you were just in the midst there of just, you hadn't quite set off yet for the TeapotOne. And I remember chatting to you about it, and I remember coming back and speaking to Dave and saying, you know that Bruce, what a top guy. So it's nice to finally.
Your fivers in the post.
Yeah.
Your fivers.
He's never going to make it, but you know.
Lads, honestly, do some sort of little website to sum up what you did. Okay. Do something because when people want to know about what you've done, and there's nowhere to send them. You know, like the only real thing that's online is that little thing on the Barnados, the Biking for Barnados page.
Yeah, it's rubbish as well. It needs revamping.
Which is literally from the internet. Is the bike, the book. Obviously, check out the link and there's a book. Absolutely, definitely, and watch the vid. There's a wee link for that. But honestly, I mean, like I said, you lads were a massive, massive inspiration to me. So it would be great to pass that on to somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Like for other people to see it as well.
You're right. We'll get on it.
You're doing a fantastic job as well for promoting all your.
Oh, thank you very much.
Adventure biking. Honestly, you do it. So proud to be, you know, a part of your influence. You know, like sort of influencing you. You know, our wise old
influence.
You know, imparting our wisdom on you on the youth.
Absolutely.
It's
really. If anyone does want to get in touch with you, you're all right if I put your Instagram handles in the
I'm
description.
not on Facebook anymore, but I am on Instagram. You can obviously tag me in there, find me through you, Bruce, if you like, and on Dave's on there as well. Yeah, anytime, drop us messages. I'm happy to speak to anyone.
Cool, because I'm sure there will be people out there that will want to drop you a line and find out some more. All right.
Yeah. Great.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's been really good. Thank you.
Boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me for a few hours this evening. And let's keep in touch. Let's not make it 10 years.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got to meet up.
Come up and see you, Nick. I mean, I'm hitting the road as soon as we're allowed. So I'll give you a shout when I'm coming up by.
Okay. Yeah. Take care,
folks.
Bruce.
Nice one, mate.
Lads, thank you so much for coming along. People, thank you so much for joining us for another brew time. This is the video version will be on the new channel, which is purely just for the podcast now. So if you search TeapotOne podcast brew time, there's a dedicated YouTube channel now purely for the podcast. The TeapotOne YouTube channel won't have the podcast vids anymore, so this is all going to be over on there, and you'll be able to listen to the podcast. You know yourself, you're listening to it. It's on all the main platforms. So, folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been an absolute pleasure, boys. People, I think we're almost there. We are almost out of it. Freedom is just on that horizon. Keep looking after those that you love. Keep doing your thing. Keep getting on out there whenever you can, and live your life. Woo-ha! Cheers, boys.